Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 97 of Beer Not Just a Podcast Adjunct series this evening. This is a brewery I've been wanting to have on for, I want to say, basically since we began, because I think that's around where they started. This is, I feel like it's a long time coming, and it's probably a really good time for it since, you know, their business has changed a lot since we first discovered their brews. So, guys, I'm going to bring them in right now. Please welcome Matt and Ryan from Collective Arts. Boys. Oh, yeah. How you fellas doing? Thank you for hanging out, man.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Appreciate it. Like I said, definitely a long time coming. I've been a fan for many years. I'm really excited to get the full story because you guys are doing some really unique stuff in the way that, you know, both you approach the products that you're making and the business itself. So I'm really keen to get the story. So first things first, let's get a beer. So we are starting with this bad boy right here. That's a sick little Frenchie right there. Rhythm Bone Czech Pills in the bottle. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, this one's actually one of our beers that's coming out of our new Toronto Brew Pub. So this one's actually an inspiration of Jeff, our head brewer there. He's a really dedicated lager man, so this was his take at a Czech 12 Plato. So classic Czech Pilsner, Czech malts, classic Czech Zaz for hopping. That classic bitterness with the Zaz aromatic. So it's just his take at a classic Czech Pils.
Love it.
And then the art and naming, I don't know. I think it might have been one of Bob's Get High on Friday Afternoon names, but
hey man, I'm here for it.
I don't know where that one came from, but
has it got something to do with the French Bulldog on the side there?
It might have to, yeah.
Might,
I don't know.
Might indeed. This is sick, man. It looks great. Nice. I've had it in the fridge so it's like nice and firming up. What's the word? Not firming the side of the glass, but it's super crystal clear. Wicked head. It smells amazing. Cheers, fellas.
Cheers.
Love
I had
it.
to dip into. We were completely sold out. By the time we had sent it to you, we had sold out of it all from that batch. So I had to dip into like our retains from an older batch. So ours is not quite as fresh as.
I apologize because this is fantastic.
No, it was my fault.
Oh, it's so good, bro. We did organize this a little while ago. I know you got stuck in Europe, which we definitely got to talk about. But this head, I didn't even mean to do it. I've been drinking I had a few Lucas recently, and this has given me, without even trying, the similar type of result here. It's amazing.
Yeah, Jeff does a double decoction on it, so it's pretty classic that way. So doing all the classic Czech brewing techniques.
I love it. As far as we're going to get into like the Toronto Brewery and everything. So this particular, like you guys do a bunch of small batch stuff from that brewery and obviously ends up in these bottles as opposed to the more maybe larger scale production cans and stuff.
Yeah. The reason behind the bottles is actually just the limitations of our space. It's quite a small little brewery if people have been. Obviously with COVID, not a lot of people have been able to come by, but we have to package all our beer in a basement. We have to go down a steep flight of stairs, and it means we can't really can feasibly.
Right.
So bottling is the only real option, and kegging obviously. But so that's why it's bottles in our Toronto beer, which it works out because they're small batch, and bottles kind of nowadays almost represent small batch in a lot of ways for a lot of people.
Definitely. Yeah, you're right. Actually, when I saw it was in bottles, like interesting, and I wasn't sure particularly why, but it makes sense. I have been out there. I went to that space when it was the space before that too, and it was super tight down there. So it's so
that's the reason behind the bottles. So it works out.
No, man, it's great. This is fantastic. This is really I really liked it. I feel like you guys are really well known for the larger produced stuff. So to have the smaller batch stuff from the new Toronto spot and something this fire is is fantastic, and particularly a beer like this is pretty. It's not the simplest thing in the world to make. It's really cool.
Yeah, when we took the space over, we put in a bunch of more fermenters to increase our capacity. A lot of it because we wanted to do more lagering. So having more fermenters mean we could keep the beer in the tanks longer. So that was kind of one of the reasons why we expanded our capacity when we moved in.
Love it. Super smart. It's beautiful. So this is great. Now let's get into the beer history. So I don't know whoever wants to start, or Matt or Ryan. Like how you guys both just discovered beer and how that then led to, I guess, Matt from your side. Like Ryan for working in the industry, and then Matt for yourself for creating this. So
go for it, Ryan.
I don't know who's been in the industry longer, me or you. I think I date back to 2006. I got into the beer industry. I was doing a master's in molecular biology, which is what I went to school for, and then decided that it was kind of going to be too boring for me in a way. So I always had a passion for beer, ever way back before I legally should have. I was homebrewing in the 90s back when I was like 16. So it was mostly a way to get around and have cheap beer. That was the primary reason for it. But yeah, so it's been a lifelong passion. And then I moved into the beer industry. Got a job at Molson, out of the blue kind of thing. They called me at a Blue Jays game when I was sitting up in the fifth deck randomly one day, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll come in for an interview." I'm not even sure where they got my resume, to be honest. Worked there for like a contract. It was cool to see a big brewery, but I knew my heart was into craft brewing, so I after that is when I joined Nickelbrook, and then I was with John and Peter at Nickelbrook for a long time. That's where Matt and Bob met them and met me, and that's where Collective Arts was kind of born. So Matt can kind of speak towards the origins of Collective Arts.
Yeah, wicked. Yeah, Matt, go for it. Man.
So over to me. I've been in the. I think I beat you, Ryan. I think I'm somewhere 2000 or somewhere right around the millennium.
Oh, gee.
So I'm at least 20 years in now. I actually started. I was, for me, same as Ryan, passion for beer. I collected, coasters from breweries and bottles from breweries all around the world prior to being able to, legally drink as well. Home brewed all through university, and then I was working at Tim Hortons. And then I moved. I actually moved out east and started working at Moosehead Breweries.
Cool.
So that was where I cut my teeth in the beer industry. I was with them for 10 years. And,
what were you doing there?
What's that?
What were you doing? What sort of work in the brewery?
Sales and marketing and innovation stuff. And cool. Realized I was at the stage of probably being a bad employee. I had a lot of opinions. So it was, my opinions were loud enough. There was time for me to, bring those to life. And so wanted to start my own thing. Bob, who's our partner, I was doing work with him. Bob's a brilliant, designer. And I let him know I was planning to go on my own, do my own thing. I asked him if he was interested. He was crazy enough to say yes. And then we sat down and looked at, okay, great. We don't want to call it Matt and Bob's Brewery. So, what do we stand for? What's our purpose? What do we want to bring to life? And our love of all creative really, flourished, that it was not just from, inside about the beers, but it was out, pouring outside to featuring artists and be ever changing. And so the kind of idea sparked. That was in 2011. And then it took us 2 years to get to the stage of being able to actually pour our first pint of beer, which was actually, first beer was brewed with Nickelbrook. We contract brewed because, there was no money in the pockets. And then we actually went through a phase where we built a brewery together with Nickelbrook. And then eventually we took over that brewery which is our home in Hamilton.
Amazing. And so 2013 was the real genesis of it. So
yeah, September 2013 at the Gladstone Hotel in Toronto, we poured our first pint of beer.
That's great.
And I remember prior to that, we didn't know whether people would understand what we're all about. That we wanted to put artists in front, and we didn't want to be about big beer label out front. Whether everyone would understand it, and the fact that the art was always changing. Would they find the beer? And we took a leap of faith. I had someone call it my art student project. Said, well, when your art student project fails, we have a job for you. And so that day was a great feeling, because people walked in and they go, oh, I get it, and I love it. So it was a nice feeling that not only did they love the beer, but they loved the whole ecosystem that we had built.
Cool. What was the first beer that you guys did? Do you remember?
It was Rhyme and Reason, our extra pale ale.
Okay. And that was brewed. You personally did that, Ryan, when you were at Nickelbrook?
Yep.
So
we brewed it at the Burlington Brewery, and yeah.
So you've been involved from the very beginning, then, essentially.
Yeah. Obviously Matt and Bob founded the company, but I've been there. Like there's 4 or 5 of us that were there pre-day one, I guess.
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's pretty rare.
Yeah,
right?
we had 2 beers. We had 2 beers. We had Rhyme and Reason and Saint of Circumstance. Rhyme's a delicious extra pale ale, and Saint is a citrus blonde. So we actually had fresh citrus zest. And in the original days, it was us either at the brewery or at home in your kitchen. We found these things called the zip zesters.
Okay.
And you put a piece of fruit on it, and you'd have to crank the zest off it. And eventually, I think it was Ryan found a fresh pressed juice company that was willing to zest for us before they pressed their juice, and so it saved some of our carpal tunnel syndrome. But those were our first 2 beers.
That's sick.
And now we're well over, I don't know how many, Ryan, 200 and some beers.
Yeah, with all the Toronto beer now.
Yeah, it has to be. Okay, so that was back in 2013. When did you guys, I imagine most of who the company is was kind of created in the time after you maybe took over the Hamilton spot alone. Is that accurate, would you say?
Well, the idea of sort of fusing the creativity of craft with emerging artists from around the world, that idea is back from 2011, and when we first started, we were a couple beers and bottles only. Okay. And that a lot of it was because we were contract producing, and so you can only beg, borrow, and steal so much production. And so the brewery in Hamilton, which is an old site where Lakeport, so Brewer was there. Labatt had bought them with the sole intention of shutting them down, and so Hamilton had been without a brewery since somewhere 2008, maybe somewhere around there. So, and they had taken previously a lot of pride in having a brewery there. So we actually took over that space. There was no equipment to use. They had sold all the equipment for scrap. They had put concrete in the drains. They had done everything they could to try and limit someone's ability to make a brewery there.
Wow.
And so it was a deserted old building. And so you had to have a lot of vision of, what you wanted to create. But there was where our brewery is located is the border between sort of the manufacturing and industrial side of the city and the downtown creative renaissance. So it fits Collective Arts really well that we are a manufacturer, but we're also a creative hub. And so it just felt like a perfect space. And there was a brewery on the east coast of Canada that was it was actually an old Sleeman brewery that was up for auction, and we auctioned on that, and we were able to get the equipment, and I think it was 40 tractor trailer loads later, we have a bunch of equipment, and we have to figure out how to put it together in Hamilton. And started with an old bottle line, eventually found a way to get a can line in there, and then just have kept playing ever since with different beers and obviously different artists.
That's awesome, man. I do remember when you guys first came out at the LCBOs, you were doing, it was Rhyme and Saying the Circumstance, they were both in 6-packs and bottles. And that was, I imagine, was that around the time you were still contracting, or was that from this point?
Both, yeah.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. I distinctly remember being always really annoyed because the way I do the selfie thing, like that was to try and like capture as many beers as you could, and I number them. This will be one of these ones will be number 7,000, so I just kept going. So like I never really want 6 of anything. So I was like, man, I want to try these beers so bad, but so I remember distinctly when you started dropping the singles, and I was like, yes, give me them all. It was, but I understand the restrictions behind that, and probably buying patterns were different back then, I imagine.
Yeah, and also it was just equipment. Sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say it was in that phase where bottles and cans were transitioning. So, yeah,
it makes sense.
And it was as the equipment we had to work with it, and at the time, it was great because the labels, we found a way so that you could also do as many different pieces of art on the same beer. So the first series we had 93 different pieces of art, all on Rhyme and Reason. So it was almost impossible to have a 6-pack with a different piece of art. So we at the time thought that was really cool. Now that we have so many different beers, we can spread that out across the different beers.
Okay. To touch on that a bit more, so like when you guys started it, what was the, like, how did you envision like incorporating the artist, or what was the maybe more intention there? I mean, obviously, people have seen your beer, you're always featuring some sort of piece of art on the beers, but they want to maybe speak to where the idea came from and sort of how that sort of led to the way it's executed.
Yeah, sure. For us, again, Bob and I sat down and said, okay, what gets us up every day, and the love of beer and creating new and different products is gets us up every day. But we just love all things creative. Craft beer is all about creativity and discovery, and so how do you go one step further? And knowing, Bob and I both work with artists and musicians, and knowing that it's really hard to be seen or heard, but they inspire us. And so how do you not put the same old boring label on the front every time, and how do you take that creativity from inside and pour it out? And so I remember saying to Bob, what if we have ever changing art and reflect the times, and then he built on that of, okay, well, what if we actually do a call for art and work with artists and pay those artists and feature them and bring it to life? And it was a eureka moment for us because it just brought that creativity to the level that we wanted to, and gets you up every day excited to be inspired by all the different creatives we work with.
That's dope, man. And like you said, the music too. I know you do a lot of music and art pairing, like the series every year where musicians and artists will submit stuff, and like, so it's really like this own ecosystem that's completely separate to the beer, but it's so ingrained in it, and it's probably, now I think of it, done a bit of really good legwork for the industry, because I would imagine that some of these artists who are submitting, when I say artists in music or visual, may have been introduced to craft beer because of this. So therefore, you're growing the industry for everybody.
Highly likely. Yeah, it's we started again 2013 craft. There was quite a number of OG craft brewers have been around, but the explosion really happened really since that time, so a lot of those artists, I'm sure, would have been introduced through what we were doing, and the whole momentum of the industry.
Yeah, love it. So the art stuff is cool. I'm sure we'll keep sort of bouncing off that. But then the beer itself, and this is kind of for both you guys, like, when you started, I imagine then from your side, you and Bob would have been like, all right, we're going to make these type of beers. This is really what we're about. And then when it came to, I imagine, bringing it to Nickelbrook initially, Ryan would have potentially contributed to that. And then that would have obviously expanded even more so once you got your own facility. Like, how did that sort of look?
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, I have a
sorry.
I kind of have a good story of like when I first met Matt and Bob, because I mean, back then there was like always random people coming into Nickelbrook being like, hey, I want to start my own brewery or start my own beer brand, and like we'd give them the time of day and be like, okay, cool, but you can kind of tell they don't really know what they're talking about or like have a real plan. They're just like, oh, it'd be cool to have a brewery or something. It was like, okay. Sure. But then when Matt and Bob came in, I was like, okay, these guys actually have industry background. And they're like, and I was like, okay, what beer do you want to make? And Bob's like, I want to make, oh shit, what was the beer from Hill Farmstead that he wanted to make? I want to make whatever. It was like an extra pale ale. That was
Edward?
Was it Edward? Yeah, it probably was Edward,
maybe.
actually.
Might have been.
Yeah, so he was like, I want to make Edward or something close to Edward. I'm like, okay, you know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah.
And Bob
Well, like,
lives in Vermont,
honestly,
so he knows.
For rhyme and reason, I had because it's anxiety, right? Your first beer.
Yeah.
What do you want it to be? And I had kept a little scorecard of over 100 different beers I had all tried, knowing that it wanted to be somewhere in that pale to IPA space. But the taste buds in Canada really, like when we came out with an extra pale ale, it had way more hops than most of the IPAs or even double IPAs that were out there. It was, so much bigger and bolder. And so, but we wanted to have something that was, approachable, but big, and Ryan really hit it out of the park.
That's sick. Did you input in that at all, Ryan? Like, who wrote the recipe? Did you do that, or what?
Oh no, it was I made the
done?
recipe completely.
Okay.
It was just the inspiration was Edward. They're like, we want to make something like Edward. And I'm like, okay, you know what you're talking about, because that's like, especially back then, Hill was seen as this like god of a brewery or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, still is.
The fact that was the inspiration, so that's where I kind of, obviously it's not the same beer, but it was kind of the inspiration behind it.
Right.
It's kind of funny because back then, like, everything was pretty much all West Coast kind of styles, and they all went out of fashion. And Rhyme and Reason is kind of like, we still make it, but we rarely make it. Like, we don't sell it at the LCBO anymore. It's like, it's kind of funny how times change.
Yeah. I feel like it's kind of swinging back a little bit towards those styles these days.
It is. And our best-selling beer is still our West Coast IPA, Ransack. Like, so it's never.
You consider that West Coast, eh?
Yeah.
Interesting. I haven't had it for a while, but it was always, I remember the very first night distinctly having it and losing my shit in 2015 and how fire that beer was. And I remember it being like, it's almost like it's the new wave of West Coast before the new wave came up, because it wasn't, I mean, I've got one, I'll have to try it again, but it was like fruity and tropical, while it's probably retaining that maybe piney bitterness, but it wasn't, you know what I'm saying, with the newer ones of these.
Yeah, well, I never hopped it, like, I never really did any of the West Coast, or still do, like a traditional West Coast. I never did that.
Gotcha.
So that's where I was more aiming for the flavor impact of the hops and not that bitterness and malty kind of backbone that the traditional West Coast had. So yeah, I think a lot of the new school West Coasts are done that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were doing that back, I guess it's 7 or 8 years ago now, or whatever it's been. But.
Yeah, definitely been a while. Okay, interesting, because I remember seeing, I think when TK mentioned, she was like, oh, like, yeah, ransack our West Coast. I'm like, West Coast? Like, I just never in my head even thought that's what it was, but like definitely a game changer of a beer. So then when, in the early days then, I mean, obviously you came in with, Matt wanted the pale ale. How did you land on what the Saint of Circumstance became, and then how did you sort of progress from there? Like, when you started, did you and Bob, Matt, did you guys have like all right, we're going to do, I mean, this is 2011 when you first started, so I would have been a little more, I'm about to use the word generic, but that's not what I mean, but more like the typical color wheel, a blonde, an amber, a porter, a stout, that type of shit. Did you guys have something in mind, and then did that change when you connected with Ryan, who would be like, "Oh, how about this?" Like, how did that all come together?
Yeah, I think it became like, obviously, it became pretty intuitive. Like, we still not much different today. Like, Ryan has a lot of big ideas of where he wants to take it, and the rest of us have lots of opinions that sometimes he likes and sometimes he doesn't. But no, we're pretty collaborative, and just love to shoot the shit over a beer and talk about the next one. And so there's now obviously more of us, and and Ryan has Jeff and Carl in Toronto, and they're having a lot of fun. And I know a lot of recipes are coming from Ryan, but there's a lot of great ideas coming from them as well. And it's that fun creative energy of what where do we want to go from here. And it's been that way from the beginning.
I think I recall when we made the Saint, though, it was kind of like a whole oh shit moment. This is actually happening, and we need a second beer. And we're like, okay, we want to make something.
We need something for those who are not ready for how much all the hops we're putting in there, because it's pretty hard to go and walk into a bar and you have one beer to sell, and if that buyer doesn't want your one beer, where are you going from there? So we wanted to do something that's more approachable but also unique, and so that's where I don't know who came up with the citrus zest. I assume it's you, Ryan, but you made it as difficult as possible, as always.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly.
We can talk about the coconut beer and how much coconut he likes to shove in.
Let's talk about
the tank. So, yeah.
What's the coconut beer?
As long as I'm not the one.
Pretty well broke her. We're not doing it again. He pretty well broke the brew house. So.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I wasn't there to judge whether they were. It might not have. There might have been some user error there too. I don't know.
I feel like a lot of breweries end up having coconut stories that I'm hearing about.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare.
It's an interesting ingredient.
That's super great. Okay, sick. So I mean, you had those two. I remember early on. I'm pretty sure there was a porter, like early on as well. I'm trying to remember some of the early ones. Picture the bottles.
Stranger Than Fiction.
Yes, that was the porter. Okay.
Yeah, and we still make Stranger today. It's won a World Beer Cup Award.
Oh, yeah.
It's as delicious as always. That was a arm wrestle between Ryan and I. I just didn't want anything too sweet, and so he made a really nice, well-balanced porter that is lots of great sort of roasted and chocolate notes, but nothing too sweet. So I think that was the third beer. Ransack, our West Coast IPA we talked about, was I think the fourth.
Can't remember the order of those two.
And then I lose track after that.
It starts going nuts. Are they to date now? Do you have what like anything you consider flagships?
To be Ransack and the Life in the Clouds, they're close to neck and neck in how much volume. I think it just depends on the regions. One's popular, might be more popular in one region, and then the other one's more popular somewhere.
I'd say Jam Up the Mash is up there as well.
Yeah.
We've I think become fairly well known for our sours, and that's our I'd say our flagship sour.
That one is okay. The Guava Goza, which is phenomenal. Is that also that was I remember the first time I had that too. Someone who was watching the podcast or whatever messaged me. It's like, you need to try this. I'm like, that was back when it was short cans and it was small batch. So he lived in the area, so he sent me some. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is insane. Like, that was such a great beer, and I feel like now you got him in the Tall Boys, and it seems like that's become a more regular or year-round beer. Is that true?
Yeah, it's a year-round beer.
Hell yeah! Is that just because
Yeah.
the popularity, like just people loved it?
Pretty much.
Yeah, yeah, it does really well year round, and we sell in some warmer markets, and so it's in the number one beer for us, really neck and neck with our IPAs and some of the warmer markets as well. And guava is a funny story. That was our first. I think that was our first fruited sour, Ryan, and we were playing with all different styles where we'd go. I have some roots from a lot of my family's from the Bahamas, and I'd always loved guava, but really, guava is not a common fruit for people to try here, and so love that sort of sweetness balance with the the saltiness of the goza. And so I know I kept putting my name in the hat that would be our first our first fruited sour.
Perfect. That the puree. I mean, I don't even know if I've even had. I guess I've had guava at some point, but that guava puree is just money. I imagine that's
Yeah,
it's so good.
we actually did. We've done a lot of trialing different purees because we would notice the quality would fluctuate. So we got to the point where we found the supplier we liked from a certain region in Brazil, and we made that supplier make sure they would give us that Brazilian crop every year.
Okay.
Because when we first were doing it, we noticed some fluctuations, and we're like, oh crap, where did the pink go or something? Because sometimes the pink would get washed out, and you're like, well, this really needs to be pink or taste properly. So, we really fine tuned where we got the guava from. So we're quite particular on that.
Well, that's fair enough. God damn it. Yeah, you need to. I never really thought about that. Because I always heard with the purees, it's kind of like there's obviously a mix up of different things, so it can fluctuate. But I thought that the point of, rather than having it from one place or one batch, is that the whatever it is, the companies that isn't there one in Oregon that everyone uses or something?
Yeah. Oregon Fruit is probably the best and most consistent fruit supplier.
Okay.
Out there. This one, we get our guava from a different supplier, but yeah, Oregon's the most consistent fruit supplier out there, I would say, for most brewers.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I love that attention to detail with that, particularly with that particular beer. Okay, so then I guess it just kind of organically grew whilst you were in that sort of early stages as far as the contracting, and then the Hamilton facility. Or the joint facility, before it led to your own one. And I guess from there, there was no, it feels like with you guys, there's no real boundaries. If someone asked me to describe what you guys do, I don't think I'd be able to. They do everything. Is that how you guys feel?
We're like, we didn't grow up to be, want to be, Hamilton's brewery or an Ontario brewery. We just wanted to have a lot of fun with what we created, and sort of play. And that's what we've done with the beers we've made, but also going into different markets and doing all the different collabs we do. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah,
your collab. I guess we'll get into one of those towards the end. But the collabs you guys have done, there's a whole bunch of things that you guys have been doing really fantastic. We're really going to get into. But do you want to? You guys want to do the next one?
Sure.
Yeah, we can do Good Monster or Daily Forecast. It really doesn't. We'll do Good Monster. Yeah.
Perfect. So this, if I'm not mistaken, is a double IPA.
Yeah.
Yep.
Double IPA. We released it last year as a new core beer.
Okay. Oh, it's a core beer, so it's a.
It is core beer now, yeah. So it's our. We have a West Coast double Imperial IPA that's a core beer as well. It's just not as often available in Ontario, but it's actually one of the best selling beers in Sweden.
Oh yeah.
That beer has been out for a long time, called Radio the Mothership, but this was kind of our New England IPA partner to that one. So, but yeah, this one, I mean, nothing really super special about it per se, other than just using a lot of good hops and trying to make it drinkable and keeping it fresh and doing all those fun, good IPA brewery things.
I love it. I feel like you guys have really leaned into the haze. Being you mentioned Life in the Clouds earlier, I think that was definitely one of the first, at least in the very early wave in Ontario, obviously and beyond, but specifically Ontario. And you kept them going. There's another there's another series, Surround Sound. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, this was kind of an evolution out of Surround Sound. So Surround Sound was kind of this double IPA series that we wanted to rotate the hops and just make new interesting beers. It was well received, but it was kind of, Matt could explain these better, but it was a little problematic for the sales team because it would always be changing all the time, and then it was just ended up being a little bit more of a hassle than anything. So that's why we decided to go with like a permanent one. Yeah,
makes sense. I can imagine they'd be better for the small batch.
Do you always make the same face, or do you change your face up every time for your selfies?
I used to change them, and then I couldn't even tell, what is it, 2022? I started it in 2011. So earlier on, I started doing that face because I'm like, I don't know about you boys, but if someone's like, smile I can't smile on command. Yeah. And I don't know what to do. Like, I don't even like doing this. It's become such a habit that this is 6,999. So like, this is like... It's such a stupid habit that I was like, okay, and I started doing it. And then whenever I didn't do it, people would comment and just be like, yo, why aren't you doing that? I'm like, oh, okay. So then it's just become the thing.
You didn't like the beer? Make the same face?
Yeah. I used to do that. If I didn't like it, I would do a different face. This time I keep it poker face. Gonna have to read the review type of thing. I know, it's so ridiculous and I feel like an idiot, but it's been so many now at this point. It's my jaw is locked in place. No, that makes complete sense. So the rotating hops one, do you ever? I guess this has replaced it, but did you ever have those in like the small batch side of things, or did that get phased out before you guys were really doing more of the small batch?
Yeah,
stuff?
it was pre-Toronto days. So
gotcha.
Yeah, so we had to do them in our scale, so 50 hectoliter batches for a double gotcha. IPA. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
We kind of went backwards. We started with a bigger brew kit, and now we finally have the smaller brew kit. That had a lot of challenges. That any one-off, you need to really nail it. True. Because it was not small.
Everyone asked me like, how big is your like? What'd you do for a trial size? And I'm like, well, we brewed 60 hex. Like that was our trial. Like,
right. Which is insane.
Yeah. We didn't have to dump. I don't think we dumped too many batches of anything, but you get good at least kind of knowing how
there was one batch. There was one collab. Do you remember that? With
Yeah, we used seaweed, and the seaweed really threw it off. So we were like, "Whoa,
that's gonna go." Can't say that one.
It was seaweed sour, and
it was a Gosa like with seaweed, but the seaweed didn't really take like we were expecting. So I was like,
yeah. I think that's the only beer it's a pretty good record, Ryan. I think that's the only first batch that you ever had to call it a day on.
That's not bad.
Yeah, we can usually salvage something.
Right? And nothing, almost nothing. Hops can't fix. Yes.
And we do our IPA series, so I think we're at number 22 right now.
Yes.
Oh yeah, 21 right now. So we do that whole series. And because we were playing and doing that all the time, it just made sense to have a everyday New England IPA double. And so that's where Good Monster came from.
Okay. And this particular one has Mosaic, Citra, Simcoe, and Amarillo. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Look at that. Untapped, never let you down. And this one, so it's nice and hazy. I'm getting it's like nice and smooth. I've got a bit of that dryness in there, but it does not taste 8%. Like this is kind of really, really drinkable. Which I imagine.
Yeah, Yeah, obviously we want to keep it drinkable. It's always been a battle. I mean, I don't know, the way we brew and at our scale, hop creep is definitely something we're really cognizant of. And we're always trying to kind of like find out a new best way to use hop. Like we have to, what's going to happen. So you're trying to get the beer into a good place. So we're always doing new methods and like trying to keep the body in there as much as possible, but making sure that the hop creep happens so we don't have accidents or anything or re-fermentations or diacetyl in the cans. So it's been a years long battle with hop creep, I would say. So it's but we've been doing a lot of cool things on our team with a lot of the different things that we've found with hop creep that I think have been unique. And then I've been sharing some of those with other breweries, like different flavor characteristics we find. And we're trying to develop new dry hopping techniques to hopefully speed up the process of the hop creep and keep as much body in the beer as possible. So it's interesting. I think a lot of it has to do with like how hop growers and the processors are processing their hops. So it keeps us on our toes anyway. But we do lots of different trials and we're always trying to fine tune our recipes.
I love it. No, this is great. This is like it's great that you guys are making sure that you've got like, the year. This is year round, right? I think we said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the year round double, the year round single, I guess, is probably life in the clouds as far as like your haze sort of range that's available everywhere. That's always like a great go-to beer. Wherever you are, and then we'll get to that soon about how wide ranging your reach is. Is really, really cool. I don't think I hadn't had tried this until now. This is definitely fantastic. It gives me a lot of that surround sound vibes as far as the way that it was made. I imagine it's somewhat similar, but you just locked in on these 4 hops and you're like, let's just run with that. Yeah.
More or less.
Which is dope. Yeah, in the best way possible. Yeah, this is great. As far as then the haze, I feel like you guys have done a lot of New England IPAs. Maybe some of the smaller batch, like the one I had recently, I really liked was the new the one for the
IPA 20.
I don't even know if I had that actually, but the one with Thin Man for the hockey thing, the Winter Classic. What was that called?
Yeah, Border Crossing.
Yes, that was fire. That was fantastic. Yeah, that was like you guys are you making it a sort of a thing to continue to drop these? I guess that was a small batch one, I imagine, or was it like still like a full?
It was a batch. No,
okay.
It was bigger than that. It was, we sold some in the US. It was a 200 hectoliter batch of beer. Yeah.
Okay, so big boy. Yeah, that was great. I just feel like you guys have got a real consistency with a style that I imagine is probably a little difficult to brew and keep consistent based on the quirks of the style, like on such a large scale, which is great. I think it's a testament to the team, and you guys are able to do that. It's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely a style a bit challenging with the larger scale. It definitely lends itself to smaller brews, but we dedicated. We have a few that helps us keep our consistency. I think that's key when you're at a large scale. Is trying to do it without that sense to be really tough. And I don't know if I'm massive echo right now. I am massive, but echo.
I think I kind of. Are you getting the sound as well, Matt? It's messing up a bit.
Yeah, you're cutting out there. It was hilarious to listen to, though, Ryan. I really enjoyed it. I wish you always sounded like that.
I was just echoing.
That's probably why.
Yeah.
I
don't know why.
Yeah,
but yeah, we have like, Ryan gets recognition of writing recipes, but he'll be the first to say, like, we have an amazing brew team in Hamilton that just is make sure we hit it every time. And so they're incredible crew. that kind of are just hitting top notch all the time. So it's a lot of fun.
I love it. It's very, very cool. So I definitely want to touch on the distribution. I was saying to you guys beforehand. Ryan, can you hear us okay, or is it echoing still? It's good?
I was echoing when I was talking.
Okay, now it sounds like you're... I think you're back in action a bit now. You weren't really doing the choppy thing. Was pretty funny, though. I could actually... We could understand you, but it was entertaining.
We're going to subtitle that one section there.
Just have to pop that in.
I don't know.
The reach. Okay, so whenever I travel around the States, and even back home to Australia, I know that one of your former employees, Dan, had connections out there. So whenever I went down, everyone that I met in the beer scene in Melbourne already knew Dan. So it was kind of crazy. Funny brief story. Remember specifically, it was March 15th, 2019. I was there, and there was a collab with Mr. West, a bar in Footscray. So I went down there because the collab, they did a Pavlova sour, which is my favorite dessert of all time. I'm like, yes, this is great. I'm in Australia for the launch of a collective collab. Let's go. I went there, and they were like, oh, no, it's the Hamilton launch today. I'm like, fuck. So it was nice to go there. They have a good bar.
It's still a good place to visit, but yeah.
I was a little... I got hold of it. It was okay. Another Aussie friend of mine used to work there, so he managed to get it for me. His name was Matt, too. Matt.
Well, Josh and Caleb, who own Mr. West, now have an importing company, and they're bringing up beer into the country.
I love what they're doing with that. It's so cool. They're keeping. Is it Josh? Josh from Mr. West, right? Josh and Caleb. Okay, so I met Caleb when I was there, and I spoke to Josh because I put him in touch with a few people out here recently that he was trying to bring out. I just love. I'm like seeing Aussies drink you guys on like Third Moon and Town and all this type of stuff out there. I'm like, man, this is beautiful. Love seeing it.
Yeah, we said the container load. Is that doing that?
Yeah. I want to tell you it's not doing it, but yes, it is doing it.
Oh, the thing. I can kind of still understand it though. What you could do, Ryan, you could either mute and try and unmute it, or even just like cancel and dial back in. I'll let you right back in, and maybe that'll just reset it. It happens. People are used to it. This is how virtual things go.
Josh and Caleb are wicked dudes. They're doing an amazing thing over there, and so they've been huge. They're importing collective there now, and they've been great friends and supporters from for the last few years. So it's been wicked.
Very cool. How are we looking?
Am I better?
Yes, there we go. Oh, perfect.
Better than ever.
Better.
I tried to open this with Chrome, but my Chrome isn't opening. So I'm on Safari, and Safari is a disaster for video, I find.
It looks and sounds basically the same, though. I think we're pretty good. But at least we know if anything messes up, we can just dial, drop, and come back. But yeah,
I wish there was a way to just reboot Ryan on a regular day, not just on video calls. Just
get him to restart again.
I wish I could. If I could just do that every day, it'd be awesome.
Oh, you guys are crazy. So, like, your reach, right? So, like, the way that you've approached it. So, wherever I mentioned Australia, I got sidetracked. But like, whenever I'm in the States, I remember being in Philly. When was that? 2019. And I was meeting a friend, and I went to the I went to say dépanneur. That's what we call it here. What do you call it? Convenience store. And they had a whole beer stuff. You guys were there, and I was stoked. Whenever I go to New York, whenever I go to Vermont, you guys are always there. What's the deal with the distro? How are you doing it? It's phenomenal. And why was that the goal? Versus maybe a lot of breweries tend to try and keep it local, where you guys would essentially doing the opposite. Like you're saying, one of the beers is the best selling, and this beer is the best selling in Sweden, right?
No, the Radio the Mothership's one of the best.
I'm sorry. IPAs. Gotcha. Okay.
Canada, we like to import brands. We very rarely like to export brands, and that's a challenge accepted moment of, why does it have to be like, if you name, even just go outside of beer, go to consumer products. What do you have? You have, you know, Lululemon, Roots. I don't know. I run out pretty quickly of Canadian brands that have been successful outside, and so I think we love the challenge. We also love to travel and hang out with wicked people around the world. So, so it felt right to us, and we're working with artists from all around the world who always said, "How come I can't get your beer here?" So it just felt right to us to expand. And we felt that because our story is a little bit different, we're not, you know, a brewery from somewhere else. We're a brewery that champions, you know, creativity. And so it's a bit of a different narrative for us. And so that was kind of the impetus for it. And we've been having fun doing it ever since, although the pandemic kind of takes takes the fun out and sticks a whole lot of stress into that. But yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. So we sell Eastern US, Europe, a few countries in Asia, occasionally send some beer to Australia. So yeah.
And it's doing pretty well. Like, it's been a pretty successful venture for you. I imagine so, being that you are continuing to do it and grow those markets.
Yeah,
like COVID
it has.
been...
Obviously, as I say, during the pandemic, you know, it's probably shrunk as a piece of our business just because so many supply chain issues during it, and no one knew whether a market's open or closed. So why would you get beer from far away? So it shifted a little bit, but it's about 30 to 40% of our sales. So it's a good piece of what we do is around the world. And you know, it's, you know, the US is the toughest, obviously. There's so many breweries and so many great breweries, and you have to go through a distributor. So to any distributors, I apologize if I said it that way, but it's, but you're relying on someone else to care about your brand, and to pay attention and to keep, you know, focused on it. And that's a lot of work. And so that, you know, you have to constantly pay attention to that. But yeah, it's been a ton of fun. We always had great times going and launching new markets, and a crew of us would go down there and do stupid things we probably shouldn't be doing. But you know, we've obviously had to take a break for a couple of years, so we're excited to get back into you know, socializing again, and seeing all our friends around the world.
I love it. Has it resulted in anything, you know, new opportunities for you guys? I you know, say you popped into a market, but you hadn't worked with any breweries there. Maybe collab opportunities came up, or doing a one-off market-specific beer or things like that. Has anything kind of come from that at all?
Definitely, like, we try to do collaborations. Like, that's one we always try to, especially if we're going to new markets. Like, we want to, obviously, the greatest way to be relevant locally is to find, like, if you're friends with someone from there, it's a great way to get your brand recognized, and way to, like, it's a good excuse to have like a tap takeover or something at a bar. Like, it's a great way to do those things. And then we do some art things too that are focused on certain countries. Like, we'll dedicate a series of a certain beer for an artist from a certain country to help them promote locally. So we do things like that to kind of activate different markets. But
yeah, and obviously our festival, like, we couldn't have pulled off our festival. We weren't traveling all over the place. But yeah, our festival that again has taken a pandemic kick in the nuts. But you know, we'll return in some fashion at some point. But you know, we would bring 60 brewers from around the world in, and which, believe me, bringing beer into Canada in small batches is one of the more challenging things to do, because it's, you know, we're quite government regulated. So I was a feat on its own to figure out how to do all that, and but yeah, that ties right in with us traveling, is being able to bring all these great breweries that we've met around the world into Canada and into Hamilton and feature
Well, we
them along with all.
single-handedly changed the LCBO's rules, right? On
Yeah.
we changed the volume so we could bring in 20-liter kegs for our festival. Like, we literally changed the rules for everyone. Because before it had to be below 19 liters. I'm guessing it was a rule set up by the big breweries, knowing that this would be the loophole of getting kind of more one-off beer in the province. But we were like, hey, look, we want to throw this festival. Your stupid rules kind of stop us from doing it. And they changed the rules so we could bring in 20-liter kegs for kind of like one-offs for a festival.
Amazing. Was that a nightmare to figure out, or was it a pretty straightforward once they realized,
Once they
you need to do samples for lab and all this stuff, so it's like, yeah, it's not the easiest, but they worked with the rules to help us figure it out, and which was awesome. And we threw a big party on a battleship with all the brewers before the actual festival, so we missed those days and are excited to get back to those.
Yeah. I went to both the 2018 and 19 Liquid Arts, both fantastic festivals. Which you know what's funny? On Monday was the first time I saw. Was it Monday or Tuesday? Maybe it was Tuesday. I saw the car park for the first time. Like, oh, this is what it looks like. I've only ever been there for the festival. I had no idea that that's what it was. I'm like, oh, that's what the stage is. Okay, I saw that guy make that mural. Okay, so like it's sick. So it's in, for people who don't know, Liquid Arts was the festival you guys did. Like you said, you brought in a bunch of incredible breweries from all across the world, and it sort of like took over the parking lot at the back of the brewery, which is the perfect kind of spot for it. Like just the right amount of size as well, for all the different tents. And it was just such a, it was super cool because you even had stuff from Australia. You had, all across Europe, obviously all across the States, like anyone who's excited about any brewery, basically, all of them were there. Tell us about how that came about. Like, why did you guys want to do a festival? I imagine, kind of based on what you were both saying, it was inspired by like, hey, we could just bring all of our friends that would be traveling and seeing. We could bring them for our folks back home.
Well, kind of like, at least to me, is like we get invited to so many festivals as kind of like we owed it to everyone. Like, you kind of like, everyone takes a hit and it's your turn to throw the festival. So it's kind of like, and obviously we thought we could probably obviously throw a good party because we have all the artist connections and musicians and all that. So yeah, it was a lot of like, okay, everyone else throws us great festivals, so it's kind of like our turn. So
love it. And I guess for you guys, it must be pretty convenient to be like, it must be pretty dope to have all of the, your friends. Did a lot of them come out? I imagine they would come out for it. I was just going to talk about the beers that you would go around to drink, all in this one place. It must be pretty cool. And then, but I imagine the people would probably often, not always, because it's probably not possible, but come and hang out.
I'd say the vast majority of people, like someone was there. Like, I don't think too many people didn't come with the beer. So
if there was 60 brewers, 59 of them were there, and there's usually rolling a couple deep, and it's fun as well. And we try to make our festival as, make sure there's like a festival within a festival for the brewers, and which is pretty common, at the different festivals. So as I say, party on a battleship and some pre-parties and also try to make sure our festival is just a little bit different and bring all that, art and music to life as well. So it was about creativity as a whole, and all the food trucks and everything, and all the food and everything. So it was about creativity as a whole. So it wasn't just about nerding out about the beers, which but we wanted to have a more well-rounded event.
Yeah.
And we organized the Raptors winning the title the one year at the pre-party. That was a lot of work on our part. We had to pull some strings. That was fun.
You made it happen.
Maybe that's what's missing this year.
Yeah, it's like the strings can't always be pulled every year. Didn't you have the Banksy in 2018? There was an actual real Banksy piece.
Yeah.
That was sick, man. Like, in that part, I've only ever been in that part once again during the festival. What is that part of the brewery normally? Is it storage or something?
I'll call it multi-use.
Multi-use? Okay.
Yeah, it's barrel aged because we have a big barrel aged beer program. So it's a mix of barrel age, events, storage, etc. Future expansion. We'll kind of, it's always changing.
Super cool. But even just that, like, even, you wrangled the Raptors winning, you brought in a Banksy piece. I mean, that's pretty sick. When's the last time you went to a beer festival and they had a legitimate, real piece of art? It's insane. Like, worldwide, globally known. It's pretty impressive, guys. I love it. I remember, and then the after party, that shit was dangerous. So the first year, I went to the after parties both years. The last one was at Merit, and the one was in that part. And I think it was Dan. He just wheeled out this a free pour machine. You were pouring, it was like the Blackberry Gozer and something, and Cloud, Life in the Clouds. I was like, oh no. After drinking for like whatever 4 hours, I'm like, you brought a free pour thing out, and then all of these like tubs full of cans. I'm like, oh, this is bad. Good bad.
Well, and all the brewers are great at stashing their own beers that they bring in, and so you do a bottle exchange as well, which gets pretty dangerous.
Oh yeah, they're the best ones.
And then on the second day, we always had like the Caesar bar, between the sessions to keep the brewers going. So we do like a kind of a cocktail hour for the people working the festival. So that was always I think people enjoyed the Caesars.
Yeah, if you're in Canada, you have to learn what a Caesar is all about.
I can't do it, man. I can't do it. Like, it's, particularly the Caesar. Is that the one with the Clamato, with the actual clam tomato juice? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I gotta probably give it a real try. I don't like pickles. Does that have pickle, or does that have a celery stick in it?
You can put pickles in.
Whatever you want.
Okay.
You can put bacon in it if you want.
It's quite acidic, though. It is acidic.
It's acidic? Okay. Yeah. Maybe I'm just being soft and I didn't try it. I just look at it and I'm like, nah, man. That's ridiculous. It's just we don't have anything. What's the American one? Bloody Marys, right? So Caesar here, Marys in the States. Yeah. I never seen it. It wasn't in Australia. Maybe it is now, but it wasn't growing up. So I never even heard of it until coming here. I'm like, what on earth is this? Why are you drinking it? No. Looks like you should make spaghetti with it or something. I'm being a hater, but I will try it, and I hear it's great. All my friends here always. It's like the morning, the brunch drink. I guess what you're saying. Yeah.
Brunch drink and hangover drink.
Hangover drink. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll get to it. Maybe when I get citizenship, I'll just drink it that day. Like, all right, fine, let's go.
Be a part of the
some poutine and a Caesar.
Part of the there you go. Good to go. Yeah, man. But it was a really cool festival. Obviously, it was sad to see it not happen in the last now 3 years. I guess it'll be after this year.
Yeah.
Looking to bring it back 2023.
Yeah. We are. We know we'll do a festival. We don't know if we'll reinvent it or what. We got a little bit of time to figure it out, but we're definitely bringing back a bigger festival next year. We thought about it for this year, and I don't know if we were too afraid that there was going to be another lockdown, and it's just an insane amount of work to try and pull off. So I thought we'd reduce the risk for us for the year.
I mean, look, it's sad, but I think that you're right. It's the risks of the way things could go. Who knows, right? Like, I guess that's what's been happening the whole time. So it's not for all of that. Then what? You're gonna be stuck with this a shit ton of very, very good, expensive beer that'll just be slowly dying if it's not a stout or something. It's rough. Yeah. So it's a shame, but I think people are a little patient, maybe impatient for a festival, but also understanding that you never know how it could go. So 2023 is back in business. I love it.
Yeah.
No, that's been super cool. And something else, and this is probably a good segue almost to the next beer if we want to get into that shortly, was you guys have moved into the distilling world in the last few years. Doing what, like gin? I guess I'll let you guys speak to it. I've had the gin and the pre-mixed drinks, which is super fun. I guess it's just like the next logical step from beer.
Yeah, I think like we can, when you're about all things creative, and you like to take on new challenges. For us, like gin was a natural extension for us because it's made relatively quickly, but it's all about the ingredients and you can play. And so we just love that space. So that's why we've really focused on gin, is that you can do so many different experiences out of the same style. But yeah, we've done. Ryan can talk a little bit more about it. We've now done a rum that maybe Ryan talk about the rum, because the whole ecosystem, how you brought that to life is cool.
Yeah, I guess it was kind of my idea. I think I was like, "Hey, do you think it's a good idea?" And you were like apprehensive, but we made it happen. But we did. We released a small batch last year of like a maple syrup barrel aged rum.
Wow.
So we aged our own maple syrup in bourbon barrels, took the maple syrup out, then we added a pre-aged Venezuelan rum, and then aged it in the barrel for a few months, and then that's what we packaged. So we finished the rum in the maple syrup barrel, and we sell the maple syrup. If you come to the brewery or on our website, you can buy the maple syrup that the barrel that the rum aged in. So it's just kind of like a cool way to do something different. Obviously, we're not quite at the level where we're making our own rum quite yet, but I think we all have ambitions one day of somehow making our own rum, actually doing the entire process. But we definitely, like, we did tried a whole bunch of different samples of rum, kind of found this one that we really liked, and decided to run with that. But yeah, it's kind of like our new extension into the spirits that we've done.
But on the gin side, we've just 2 years ago, I guess, our juniper and lavender received best flavored gin at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition.
Amazing. And
then double gold again this year. So and all of our gins have been really well recognized, and so we're proud of them. And I think it is because we come from this world that we're constantly playing and creating, which is a little more disruptive than where the spirits world has been, which is a little slower to move and not pushing the boundaries quite as much. It's a little more rooted in tradition, and we kind of push back against tradition.
That's dope. I guess
we have, and like we came naturally by it. It's been something we always want to do. And Matt Howell, older brother of Pat, who I know you know,
yes,
is our distiller and cider maker.
No way.
Me and him went to university, so that's how we know each other. We were roommates in university, so we've been together for almost 20 years now. So yeah, he's the one. He went to Harriet Watt in Scotland, so he has a brewing and distilling background. So he's really always been into this distilling side.
Jeez.
So it was kind of always his passion. So, and then we have Brett Taylor, who also did Harriet Watt, so he's kind of helping out too with a lot of the different spirits and cocktails we're making up now. So we have a lot of really dedicated staff that really are into the spirits world of things.
That's awesome.
And that's been a big investment for us. Like we've recently added blending abilities, which allows us to play with all those cocktails. And so that's been a lot of fun is to just continue exploring there. Most of them are gin based, but we have done some more neutral spirit based ones we've played with, which is obviously the seltzer craze is huge.
Yeah.
For us. We get more excited about that. And we've played a bit in that space, but to be honest, we did, fresh, like steep teas. So I was trying, our elevated version of a seltzer using real ingredients.
Cool.
But we have more fun with, pushing the limits on actually canned cocktails and creations there.
I love that. It's been interesting because I guess you guys have been there, but in Australia growing up, like the ready to drink, like the pre-mixed drinks were just everywhere. It was sort of what you drank, but we didn't grow up drinking beer underage. We would drink these ready to drink stuff because they're cheap and they get you trashed. You know, but it's really cool to see Canada sort of embrace it at a higher level, as opposed to these sort of like, you know, just cheap stuff that tastes terrible that does the trick. Now we're actually getting like, you know, really craft, you know, pre-mixed stuff. I've had a few of the ones that you guys have done. They've been fantastic. Is that something that you guys are really leaning into moving forward? Like, it's something that you really want to kind of focus on as a part of the distilling business?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say, I think it's now we're trying to get all of the, like, our liquor boards and everyone to get involved with, because a lot of them, like you said, they all lean towards the kind of the low hanging fruit kind of cocktails, whereas now we're trying to convince them all that these elevated cocktails are where they need to be. And there's, Matt, you can probably speak to it, but there's a lot of trends, I think, coming out of a lot of markets like the US, where these high-end cocktails and cans are becoming a big trend now.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, you see the White Claws of the world, like, being big pallets in the store and taking over way too much of the store.
Way too much.
And it's really, you know, I could go on a whole rant there, how that's taken away from both craft beer, but also the ability to create elevated cocktails and have places for those. And so it's unfortunate to see that sort of mass category disrupting, you know, craft, you know, whether it's spirit-based craft cocktails or craft beer. Yeah, so I'm hoping that's a fad that subsides sooner than later.
Yeah, I imagine it'll be the same challenge as kind of beer, with just many years behind. Like, you know, trying to get people off the macros and move them into something, you know, local and more expensive but better quality, and it's a better drinking experience than typically I find when someone has. It's like going from Tim Hortons coffee to a nice third wave roaster like D2 is out there in Hamilton. Like, it's night and day. Like, you just can't go back once you're in it. Like, it is what it is. And I feel like a lot of my friends that I've seen since doing the stupid selfie thing these last 11 or so years, not as long as you guys, but just watching me being the dude who accidentally got into it, and then just being the example by being curious, and then seeing people as we go. Every time we go to our house party, now the same person who rocked up with Canadians now rocking up with a 6-pack of Collective or something. And then you're like, all right. You know, you're seeing that change. So perhaps it's just going to be a slower grind to get people off the White Claws and onto...
Totally.
Yeah, you know.
I have a funny story about when we first announced we were opening the brewery in Hamilton. You know, it was big news in Hamilton because there had been no brewery, and everyone was you know, upset about Labatt buying the brand to shut it down. So I remember our meeting room while we were figuring out how to put a brewery back together again was the actual like cold room for the old retail store that was there. And so we were just sitting in this random room around a table, and you'd hear taps at the glass at the front door. And so you'd go and say, hey, we're not open yet. And the, you know, this happened on a fairly frequent basis. People would just say, yeah, we know. We just want to say thanks for bringing a brewery back to Hamilton. We're excited for you to open up. And then when we did finally open, it took us, I don't know, Ryan, what did it take us? About almost a year. When we finally did open, I saw those same people come back in, and their comment was, we don't know what the hell craft beer is, so give me one of everything you have, and I'll find something to like. We want to be able to support you, and now they've gone from, you know, choking down our easiest drinking beer to, you know, deep dive into the sours and doubles and Imperial porters and everything. So it's amazing to see how it changes. So again, I hope that same trend of going from water with, you know, flavoring in it of like a White Claw to actually appreciating a true canned cocktail. I'm hoping that comes, and the government's embraced that category, because it's the hottest category right now in the US. So we're hoping to see that get embraced as well.
That's awesome. That's such a sick story, man. Like, I love to hear. And I feel like that's exactly that. That's a testament to people that are like, it shows that local is important, and that local representation is really, really key. And to give people something, I found that, and I'm sure you guys have too, that, you know, wherever you go, people are just proud of local. And sometimes to the point of they support it because it's local and not for any other, you know, exemplary factors. But, you know, you guys have given the area something to be proud of. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. And there's now a group of amazing breweries in the city.
Yeah, it's great.
That are doing awesome things.
I love what's
Are we
happening.
trying the next beer now?
Yeah, I was gonna say, since we're talking about you know, cocktails, I know this isn't quite a cocktail, but it kind of sort of is. You want to tell us about this one?
Yeah, so this one is my sound thing.
All right, it's happening again.
Yeah.
Do you want to just cut out and join back in? Yeah, he knows what to do now. He's a professional.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great little segue. So we're going to go this bad boy here. There he is. I'm going to grab him back in. There he is, nice and easy.
Sorry.
No, man, don't apologize.
Do not know it.
You're good.
Yeah, so this one is actually another core beer.
Oh, we got different art. Yes.
You can hear me.
I can hear you. Yeah, you're good, bro. Letting you
cool.
talk.
Yeah, so this one is actually our newest core beer. We made a couple batches last year as like trials to see, kind of gauge people's reaction, but the idea is to be inspired by a mimosa, but the base is a beer, not a sparkling wine or champagne. So we bake a base kind of sour beer, and then we add
Got the branded glass. Yeah.
we add about 33% orange juice to the finished beer, but we're kind of making this one a little bit like slushy style, if you were.
Okay. Unfermented.
Unfermented, yeah.
Okay, and I'm seeing. There you go. The glass I chose is branded, but not large enough. So, oh, there it is. Oh yeah, there's that OJ right there. There she is. Is it pasteurized? I imagine.
We have a tunnel pasteurizer on our can line.
Amazing.
So we're able to pasteurize the beer so you can drink it safely.
Yeah.
So no can bombs here.
And I'll say this is our we got a tunnel for our canned cocktails and any non-alc stuff we do, so we don't have to put any preservatives in them.
Okay.
But never contemplated really using it with beer. But this works really well for. So this is the only beer we use it for, but it allows you to have a totally different experience being able to use fresh fruit,
which is perfect. Sorry, the stupid phone.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize that. So 30%.
Yeah, we fluctuate a tiny bit sometimes, just based on, again, going back to fruit. The quality of oranges changes over the course of the year. We're in the U.S., they harvest from different regions, and our supplier told us, he's like, "Hey, this time of year the fruit's not quite as good, and this time of year it's better." Mm-hmm. So depending on the time of year, we add more or use a little less. So we're just trying to make sure that the orange quality is up, kind of trying to stay consistent.
Okay. That's interesting. I guess at least you can. So is it puree though, right?
Juice.
It's actual juice.
Yeah,
Okay, so local juice. Okay.
I mean, orange puree and orange juice would pretty much be the same thing.
Yeah, that's true actually, because it's what are you doing? You keep the pulp in there.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. There is pulp in there. Like it looks kind of like chunky, but I wasn't sure if that was just like sort of the settling thing. I just took it out of the fridge.
No, it'd be pulp.
Oh yeah, it is. It's like sticking to the side. Hell yeah! Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Oh my god, there's actual pulp in there. That is hilarious.
So it's
makes it feel really real.
So yeah, it's kind of our take of like the slushy style, but like done a different way, and obviously not a big fat slushy beer, but it's kind of got that real fruit vibe to it. So that's kind of what we're going for.
What's the base? Is it like a Berliner or something?
I mean, you could call it that. I mean, it's a sour base. It's not quite as sour as like a Berliner would be, but sour enough just to kind of mimic that champagne vibe.
Okay. I guess that was that like a challenge coming up with what that was going to be to sort of like, because I can't even really think of off the top of my head, because I imagine it probably had to be a touch sour to make it work with the fruit.
It's fairly sour. It's just not quite the same level as our other sour beers. We have, luckily, because we make so much sour beer, we have a lot of dedicated equipment for making sour beer, so we can get quite precise on what we're doing.
Okay.
So we have a whole dedicated souring system, so we can really dial in the acidity to the levels we want. So we're able to be a lot more precise than a lot of breweries tend to be, just because we have the capability to turn off the souring if you were where we wanted to. So that's kind of one of those benefits of us making so much sour beer. We can do these like kind of unique kind of styles.
Interesting. And this one just came out?
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks ago, Matt. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It's obviously perfect timing coming into summer for this type of stuff. It feels like it's that perfect. What do you want to call it?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the type of beer that should be mandatory that every brunch restaurant should stock this type of thing.
Yeah, and for anyone in Ontario, we also did a grapefruit version.
Cool.
That's available in either Loblaws or Fortino stores. They brought that in, so there's actually 4 packets, 2 of the orange and then 2 of the grapefruit. So
that's great.
Sort of, we did it as a mimosa style, but really it's fresh fruit beer.
Yeah. It's definitely not what I thought it was going to be. I thought it would probably be this big sort of like real more tangy, soury thing that with, I don't know, you're right, like pure, I was about to say puree, but yeah, juice in it. It's given it like a much more authentic mimosa experience with the pulp. It's even sort of like lining the side of the glass with the lacing, which is, I've never seen anything like this before. It's fascinating. How's the response been?
Yeah. I don't even know, Matt. Have you got much feedback? Like,
it's still early days. Anyone who's tried it anecdotally has really enjoyed it. So we'll see what the masses have to say about it.
It's cool, man. It's really, I feel like it's really creative to do it with the I'm actually going to note that down. Unfermented, like unfermented fruit juice. Sorry, unfermented but pasteurized. So it's not dangerous. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be. I haven't really heard of much outside of there's a couple of breweries that do smoothies that pasteurize that are able to. But I haven't really heard of anything like this. That's going to be produced en masse. That's en masse for craft level. That's done it this way. This is great. Is this going to be available in multiple markets, or is this like a local thing?
No, we've gone wide, so it's in. I think it's across. It's in quite a few. I know for sure Alberta, Quebec, and Ontario, and Canada. I'm not sure where else. And then any of the markets we're in the U.S. And same thing. It will eventually make its way overseas as well.
Sick. I love it. Really creative. And the Daily Forecast, is that like the series for different cocktails?
I think it'd
beer cocktails?
More for the mimosas, I think.
Specifically.
Yeah, for our fresh fruit beers, yeah.
Okay. So you got the grapefruit, you got the orange one. I imagine there'll be more in future that'll just be sort of similar in that brand.
I think one of our, I don't know how it's getting branded, but one of our sour series beers this summer, we're going to do in this style.
Sick.
Of non-re-fermented fruit. That one is based off a Toronto recipe we made with, is like, pog. I don't know if you've been to Hawaii, the pog drink. That's where like the kids' games the pogs where it came from, where it's
okay.
passion fruit, orange, guava.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make a sour based on pog in the fresh fruit form of not re-fermented. So that one will come out
That'd be
later
killer.
this summer. Yeah.
That'd be killer. I love that. That's actually a good little segue to the Toronto Brew Pub. We've touched on it a bunch. So obviously you got the main facility in Hamilton and the Toronto spot on Dundas and Bathurst there, just up from Bathurst. Great little spot, wicked wraparound patio on the side there. So there's like plenty of seating. I went and actually met up with Patty there in September. Checked it out. Got to have a couple of drinks there. Really cool vibe. How did that come about? What's the deal?
Well, as we said, we were kind of did things in the reverse. We started with a larger brew kit and always wanted the ability to play even that much more. And so in Toronto's our biggest market, even though we're in Hamilton, Toronto's just huge city next door for us and creative hub. So we always knew we wanted to do something there, and there was just a kind of timing made sense for us. On one hand, although trying to open a space and get going during a pandemic is not as easy. I don't think any of us thought it would be such a roller coaster. So trying to get a food program and get some cadence for hiring and everything was tough, but it seems like we've got some sense of normality finally there.
I love it. So the intention was to sort of have a bit more of a presence in obviously the big market next door, and to be able to experiment on these, do these fun little small batch things, whether it's in the bottle like the lager we just had. It just obviously all of your the main beers also made at Hamilton are pouring there from what I understand as well. So it's kind of a nice little mix people can try if they haven't been able to get down to Hamilton, or they get these one-offs that they couldn't get elsewhere type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think when we got it too, it was before Ontario changed the laws about bars and restaurants being able to retail products to go. So that was also our way to get a retail store in Toronto. Like, oh, cool,
right.
We can. And then the government ended up changing the rules, which is great. But when we took it over, we didn't know that was going to happen. So it was and it was in the middle of COVID. So it was like, well, we want to get people access to our product. So we thought it was a great idea, which it still is. But the government changing the rules it's great for everyone, but it was part of the reason why I think we thought it was a great idea too.
Right. I know what you mean, because that was a pretty big step. I felt like it didn't get spoken about enough, like how crazy it was that from all these years it was just you could buy the beers in one place or two places really. Then all of a sudden now anybody could just start it. A restaurant could become a cafe or anywhere could become that. But it's kind of cool to have a home, even though it's only like say an hour away from Hamilton to Toronto. It's still like I think it's pretty dope to have this spot that is different. It's close by enough, but there's so many people there that it can service, whilst also offering something unique that they, if they went to Hamilton they couldn't get these beers. So I mean that's pretty cool, and it's cool. It's a great looking space. You paint the mural on the side is amazing. Obviously you've lived up to the brand. The art is crazy. It's just a real fun vibe, and the people there are cool. Just the servers are all super nice, and I don't know, it's just a great experience.
Yeah, and up above it, we're, although not open to the public, we've built some creative studios up there. So we'll open it up for some artists to use as a free studio space, and we'll change it which artists are in there. And then also be able to shoot a lot of like content with musicians that are coming through or local musicians. And so wanted a space that we could bring sort of that side of the brand to life as well.
That's great, man. I love it. I'm really happy. And the response has been super solid. I mean, when I went there, it was rammed.
Yeah, it's been great. As you know, there's a pandemic. So
I heard.
One month to the next, you didn't know what you were getting. But no, we have an amazing team that's there. Jeff is the head brewer. Erica is the general manager. There's just an amazing team that's there. That I think something that's really important for us is I guess really being our Canadian selves and being very sort of authentic. There's no worse experience. I've had it going into other breweries, never to be named, but where you don't feel necessarily welcome, and something that's really important for us is just that you should feel totally at home and really comfortable. And it doesn't matter if you know your beers or you don't know your beers, like you should be comfortable asking questions. We have a lot of different stuff that we do. And so I think they've done a great job of that, of just making it feel really, really comfortable and everyone at home there.
Yeah. Very cool, man. It's a really great move. I was very happy to hear that that it was you guys who took over that space. I know it was up for a while, and I knew a couple of other breweries who were talking to that space. I was happy to see that it came out to be you guys, and you experimenting.
And we've been looking. We looked in Kensington Market for a long time. We've looked around the city for a long, long time. We almost put pen to paper on a couple leases over the years, and for different reasons, some weird reasons, we signed some of those leases, and so no, we've been really happy. We have amazing landlords as well. So, yeah, and that's not always common, because if you want to. If you want to talk some of the challenges that exist out there, especially through the pandemic, that's a tough thing that a lot of people have gone through, is the challenges with landlords as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've heard some horror stories, and we can all look. You walk down Queen or any kind of major street in any city, even here in Montreal. I'm gesturing outside because Saint Laurent, Saint Denis, Park Avenue, they're all like, it's half of the stores are gone. So I can imagine it's been a rough time. So it's great that you're able to open during this time and really keep it going, and hopefully we're in the tail end of it. Hopefully,
yeah.
So that it'll people will be able to enjoy it more. You'll be able to do a lot more and make more moves more confidently, such as Liquid Art. Actually, that's a question. Can it be incorporated into Liquid Art? Because I imagine there could be maybe like a satellite situation.
Maybe we do a party there or something. Like, yeah, I think that was the plan.
Yeah. When you bring brewers in that have never been to Canada before, they want to see Toronto.
Fair enough.
And so gives us definitely ability to host them there. But for sure, it'd be a satellite location, and there's nothing preventing us from extending the festival in some way into the city.
Very cool. Never thought about that till now. I love it. Speaking of other locations, I'm going to run to the washroom. I'm going to ask you a question. I can still hear you because I'm in a small place. The New York location, I remember seeing a post or multiple posts about it. I want to say it must have been early pandemic or maybe 2019.
Oh, before the pandemic. I think it was 2018.
Jeez. Okay. And what was the area again? Yeah. Remind me of the area.
Gowanus in
That's
Brooklyn.
The one. Okay. Do you want to just start to speak on?
Sure.
Like how it's
we plan. Yeah, I'll take it from here. I'm good.
Hey, it's all you, man.
Are you going too? You guys are both making me talk to myself. This is awesome.
Right, come on, man.
So yes, we signed. Yeah. We signed a lease in, I believe it was 2018. Yeah, we've had brewing equipment since early 2019. So we were excited to open up a space in Gowanus in New York. Obviously, we sell beer in the U.S. and wanted a home base, so we're not a foreign brewery. And we signed a space on a great location in Gowanus, and we thought we were in a hurry up mode. We had brewing equipment, I think, had to have it ready for June of 2019, and it's been sitting in a warehouse since then. Unfortunately, our landlord has not yet finished the building that we need to move into. It was a beautiful old building that needed some restoration, and the project's essentially come to a stop. So we have a sign on the building. We have a kitchen built out with a beautiful mural on it. And boilers there. And we have a bunch of brewing equipment sitting in a warehouse, and we're just twiddling our thumbs, wondering when or if we'll ever be able to finish and build that brewery, which for a small company that needs to be scrappy, and we've been sitting with a lot of money sitting in warehouses that's not doing anything. So it's been tough on us and frustrating. But at this point, there's nothing we can do than sit and wait and hope the landlord either finishes the building or sells it to someone who will.
Jeez. So like you're
saying, so I'm gonna take a drink to that.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. So it's really at the mercy of the landlord. Like I imagine them clauses or something that that they had.
Yeah,
to do
like in full transparency. We did a great lease, except, I'm going way too deep into this, but instead of so for anyone who's ever doing leases on spaces, please call me. I'll tell you the pitfalls. One of it is, if not complete by X date, all of this is null and void.
Right.
And unfortunately, we did not put that in there. We used a lawyer. They didn't recommend that. We didn't think of it because the landlord was in a hurry up mode. So it doesn't matter what your landlord's telling you. Make sure you put all the safety clauses in there, because if we had one sentence in that lease, we would have been able to have moved locations. We'd actually been in discussions with another location that we'd be up and running 2.5 years ago. And unfortunately, we signed the wrong lease with the wrong location, and we're stuck.
How much is it? Like a while longer, or is there any way out at all, or is it sort of just sit tight until?
I mean, we could lawyer up and blow a ton of money fighting it, which we kind of are anyway. But
yeah,
I think the only thing we're counting on is the New York real estate market's hot again, and especially that neighborhood. And he would be crazy to sit there doing nothing with that building for much longer. We hope.
Right.
So finish it, let us move in, or sell it. That's the.
Jeez,
or yeah, and it's you can't exactly say, great, we're taking the brewing equipment and we're signing a lease over here, because if he ever does finish it, we're stuck on that one. And so
right.
we've had people reach out to us and said, heard what happened to you. We have a building that's perfect for you, but you unfortunately we missed one line in the lease.
So it's like a commitment as opposed to having to pay right now, but the commitment means that if
Correct.
he ever does finish it, you can't get out of it. So there's no point.
Yeah, but you're million plus in brewing equipment, and you're first and last, and security deposits and boilers and chillers and everything else is all sitting, spent, looking to do something. Jeez. So nice. It is what it is, and you roll with the punches, but it's we were really excited to get a brewery up and going in New York City, and it's our largest market in the US, and so it feels like home because it's such a creative hub, especially Brooklyn. So one day we'll be up and going there.
Well, I guess it's not like impossible, but it's hopefully just get his shit together and do the right thing. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. That's crazy. Did you have plans? So say, when everything works out in your favor, are you planning to maybe move the US operations as far as distribution to be based out of this US brewery? So then there's no sort of import-export. It's just more of like your Canadian side here, the American side here, and you just service the markets? How would...
I think it was meant to be more of an innovation brewery,
okay.
service New York and surrounding area with more, smaller batch brews.
Okay.
It was a 20 hectoliter, 20 barrel.
Oh, it wasn't massive. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it was
Well,
definitely not. It couldn't have done all of our U.S. demand out of there, but it could have. It could have done a decent volume. Like we had, it was a big. It's a big enough space that we could, in theory, push it. But I don't think anyone really wanted to. So
That wasn't.
I think we were just more just trying to be interesting, much like we're doing in Toronto, but down there.
yeah, and unfortunately, and this was delayed pre-pandemic, and the pandemic didn't make it easier for our landlord, unfortunately. And yeah, as I say, we were in this great hurry up mode. We didn't think we could get the brewing equipment quick enough, and we, I think we did by at least 3 years. So.
God, man. That's really frustrating. Like I couldn't imagine how pissed off you guys must be. So hopefully that that all sort of comes to fruition in whatever way it's meant to be sooner than later. I mean, I wonder if you did get it going beforehand, would the pandemic have negatively affected it? But it seems like beer is one of the few industries that seems, for the most part, to have done, have held on pretty well.
Yeah, I think like you would have had a trade off in
Right.
that restaurant side of it,
Mhm.
where the taproom side would have really struggled. But most markets, including New York, opened up the ability to sell direct to home.
Mhm.
And so you offset it on that side. So I think we would have been just fine through that. And a lot of breweries, struggled initially. If I go back to the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of breweries just closed their doors because, and for us, we pivoted. We had a sales team and staff to keep going. So we pivoted by actually opening up more of a direct to home sales. And we're delivering to and we went from having no e-commerce business to it being a huge piece of our business. We all took our own personal cars, we loaded up, and we're delivering to homes. And often in early days, we were the only first person anyone saw. And you were delivering a case of beer to their porch, and that's what kept a lot of breweries afloat, across North America and around the world is pivoting to be able to do e-commerce.
You guys didn't have it pre-pandemic, eh?
Sort of.
Sort of. It was really it didn't show up on any of our sales charts, let's just say. And it like for a while there at the beginning of the pandemic, it was probably the biggest piece of our business.
Oh shit.
And it just showed up, for us, we didn't want to lay anyone off. And so it's like, okay, you gotta pause and say, how do you avoid laying anyone off when all your channels are essentially closed? Figure out a new way to get it there, and we were able to successfully do that. Most breweries were laying off staff, and we didn't have to do that, and so that was huge for us, and we were proud of that.
That's great. Why did you? I mean, look, because I'm here in Quebec, and I'm saying it from a place of we still don't have the direct to home option for breweries, which is eternally frustrating, particularly in a province where, similar to Ontario, it's 12, 14 hours to get to the arse end if you want to get Orval or something like that. Like you have to kind of still search it out or know someone who can send it, whatever it might be. Being that Ontario, it was quite a big deal. I think it's one of the coolest things about Ontario that you do have the direct mailing option. Like, was there any reason that you didn't lean into it previously? I guess you guys had a large distro network anyway, so maybe people didn't need it.
And no one seemed to care. Like no one was like, it wasn't a thing. Like there was wine clubs.
Mm-hmm.
You had wine clubs. That was a thing, right? No one else, you weren't ordering any other style of alcohol for delivery. And then
maybe like
when you're
Half Hours on Earth was doing it.
They were the first.
I don't even. Yeah, like I couldn't think of too many other breweries actually doing it.
I think that was because of their proximity to nothing.
Yeah, like because they were so isolated.
yeah,
But when you're trapped at home and every day, at the beginning of the pandemic, we all forget what the beginning of the pandemic was like, but it was like every day has a happy hour because you're stuck at home. You don't know what the hell's going on. And so that just changed habits. And that it wasn't just here in Ontario, it was globally, it changed habits. And I don't think that genie's hopefully not going back in the bottle, because for us, it's our only ability to offer directly to one of our drinkers our entire portfolio. If there's no retailer that carries everything we make,
right.
And so it's the best ability for us to offer them the best experience we can.
For those in Ontario who are looking to order from you, can they also get access to things like the the Rhythm Bone, all the fun Toronto stuff, right? They get access to the small batch stuff that they couldn't possibly.
Yeah, we release probably
sick.
Yeah, we probably release a beer a week, I think.
Great.
And then we also have a beer club that has some exclusive beers that are only available on the beer club, and we actually have our own team. We drive. Our own team will deliver same day delivery. If you order by 12, we deliver to your house that same day. Amazing. And it's our team that delivers everywhere from Scarborough to Niagara to Kitchener to I think Brampton. Jeez. So most of the area around Toronto, we do that all ourselves so that we can kind of give the best experience we can.
That's really cool. I'm glad that worked out for you guys too. Being that maybe, like you said, because you guys had that distro network and mostly readily available, like you said, not your whole portfolio, but if I wanted collective, it's not always that difficult to get hold of across the province. But that now additional value where maybe they couldn't leave the home back 2 years ago, like you said, it almost seems like a distant memory, but not really. And to be able to get the small batch stuff all in one place, very, very cool. Super convenient. I think it's become now, like even like my partner and I, we didn't really order like Amazon or order that much stuff online. Now it's my go-to. Like even before, like shit, we need paper towels. Well, I've got a supermarket there, I got a supermarket there, and I'm like, let's just go online. Like it's just become this like automatic thing now that I wonder has probably happened for a lot of people, and particularly beer was almost maybe a lot of people who weren't customers, period, not even just of collective, but of beer online, period. And they're like, oh, this is how I can get it, sweet. And now I'm like, oh wow. And then they realize like I can order. Hang on, I'm based in Hamilton, but I can order from everywhere. And I think that's probably maybe they got in a rhythm of it, every week or every other week, whatever it might be, just order from somewhere, and it's very cool.
And I'll say I'm in the brewery most days, but I order a lot and I live 12 minutes from the brewery, and I'm like, do I want to drive there and back, or do I want to just place the order? No, I'll just place the order.
Why not, right? Personally delivered. No, it's beautiful. I love it. Do we want to wrap it up with the big boy?
Sounds good.
Yeah, sure. So the last beer we got is one of our Origin of Darkness collaboration series.
Yes.
Every year we release typically around 4, sometimes more, collaborations that are based around dark beers, generally higher ABV ones.
Yes, very.
A lot of them are barrel aged. The one that we're drinking tonight is one we do with Garage Project from down in New Zealand, so close to your neck of the woods, I guess.
Yes, it is. 3 hours.
I don't know if you know the boys down there, but
I don't know them personally, but I'm very familiar with the brewery. Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah. No, they're amazing. And then, so we kind of did this one inspired by a lot of ingredients from there.
Yep.
So we used their Phantasm Pinot Noir grape, dehydrated grape. So that was added to the beer post barrel aging. and then we got in vanilla from the South Pacific and cacao from New Zealand, actually, from a source that they use. And then we did a double barrel aging. First, we aged in neutral oak, and then we finished in tawny port barrels. So
Very cool.
it's got a lot going on.
I like that you put phantasm in here.
So obviously, when we do a lot of these beers, you're always trying to do something new and interesting. So this one's got a lot of different flavors going on, but I think they came out pretty good and pretty harmonious.
This is like such a dope series. Also, I got the glass. It's one of the coolest glasses. I love this glass. It's so sexy. It's perfect for just like, you know, small pours of high ABV dark beers. Gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's so good.
And then we switched over to doing cans a couple years ago.
I was about to ask. Yes.
I mean, we feel like at our brewery, our canner is a much better packaging line than the old bottler that we had.
Fair.
So we felt like we could can it better. We felt that the size is a much better serving, like 355 mils when most of these beers are above 10% ABV.
Yeah.
Is a much better serving size than a big 500 mil plus bottle. So it's easier for a single person to consume as opposed to always trying to find someone else to split a bottle with you. So it's always interesting the reaction you get because a lot of people don't associate high-end barrel-aged beer with small cans.
Yeah.
So we did get a bit of pushback from people being like, "What the hell?" And then
there's that perception.
And then you tell them, yeah. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, there's that perception that you can, you know, a bottle makes sense to be more expensive, but the reality is this is the best way for us to treat the beer.
Mm.
And then people were all like, "Oh, we're getting gypped." I'm like, actually, we were able, because we were much more efficient by making it this per milliliter or liter or whatever. It was actually much cheaper to do than when we used to bottle it. Because of all the process that would involve and the bottles would just be more expensive. So we could actually do it cheaper to give the product to the customers at a cheaper price. But they just associated cans with like a cheaper product. So it's kind of like one of those like mind fucks that people can't get over.
I thought that had passed for the most part now. I thought we'd kind of all gotten, you know.
It's getting there. There's still some holdouts, but
yeah. I everything you said, 100% aligned with. Bottles, great, love them, they're fun, but particularly over the pandemic when you weren't seeing the people that we all used to see, like how many of us have all of these 750ml bottles at 12% in the fucking
yeah.
So like I'm all for these. I actually even like the one. Have you seen the stubby ones? Like the ones that are like 8 ounces or whatever. Like I don't think I've seen them in Canada, but like even that's like the next step from this. But this is great. This is 10.8. Easy serving for one person. That's not going to be too much. I couldn't agree more. I was really happy when I saw the change to this. I really did enjoy the bottles, but it did make me sit on them longer. If I until then, these I'm just like, oh, I could do this. I don't need to share this, even though technically it's 145 mil less. It's not that much even, but it's
exactly.
It's the mental thing.
It's the mental thing,
which is very very cool. Got a great nose on it. I'm definitely getting like the port on the nose.
Yeah, you get that kind of that nuttiness from the port.
Yeah.
So it spent more time in the port than it did the oak.
Okay.
The oak was just kind of mellowed it out, and then finished in the port. Just like all the flavors, like obviously like cacao and vanilla obviously go very well with big dark imperial stouts. So you're not really taking a big risk when you use those things, but we never used those dehydrated grapes before from them.
Okay.
That was a new experience for us, and they turned out really well. They were fun to get out of it. Speaking of getting out of a tank, I know that our brewers had fun getting those out of the tank. But
Jeez,
I think Matt, I think you might know him. He's Australian. He was brewing for us back then. He got covered in I think he got covered in wine skins when he did that.
You know, part of the deal. Yeah, I do know that. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I remember him telling me about that. That's part of the fun of these type of beers. I can imagine. So the Phantasm. It's a powder, right?
Yeah, so it's like I don't know the whole science behind it,
right?
But they're dehydrating, but keeping a lot of the flavor components, obviously.
Okay.
So it's a pretty cool product. We actually just did a collaboration with Willibald out of our Toronto brewery, using the I'm pretty sure it was Pinot. No, sorry. My brain is not working. The white wine.
Pinot Grigio, Chardonnay, Sauv Blanc.
It was Sauv Blanc, I think.
Sauv Blanc?
Sorry. Yeah. I wasn't there when they brewed. Jeff and Joe were there. So we're just doing like an IPA with Sauvignon Blanc one, and that'll should be coming out soon. So that'll be interesting to try too.
That'd be fun. This is such a fascinating beer. Obviously it's this is probably my favorite series from you guys. I love it. Even the Imperial Porter version that you mentioned before, Matt, I love that one in the sexy little the little tube, the cardboard tubes. Yeah, love that one. Particularly because it's just like a straight up Imperial Porter. There's nothing else in this. It's just straight up and down bourbon barrel aged. It's just money. I love it. This is fascinating because it's got like there's like the tart wine kind of going on in here from the Pinot barrels. But then if you didn't tell me that there was Phantasm, I probably would have just ascribed it to the wine. But there's like I've only ever had Phantasm in like double IPAs. So it's like it's like this. In this, it's like, I don't know, I can't really think of the word. It's like zippy. There's something like, it's almost like sherbet or something.
Yeah.
Am I wrong there?
I'm assuming it's like there's acidity, right? Like it's like exactly like you said, it's that tang.
Yeah.
There could be, and it's the tannins too. Like you're getting tannins from it. Like it's probably the kind of the balance of everything.
That's fascinating. This has been
I mean, I would love to play around with it more. So it's kind of one of those. I know that they're kind of pushing it more. I see them promoting it more out there. So I think people are going to try it out. And you see a lot of those new expressions of similar flavors, like all of the the new like third phase of hop extracts you see coming out. Like we used a couple of those in our last IPA series beer. So there's some interesting things coming out of the extract world, which I think is kind of like the newest innovations in flavors when it comes to beer. I think is going to happen in the next few years.
Yep, definitely agree. Like Incognito, I think it's called the hot.
Yeah, we use in the IPA 20. There's Incognito, and then there's the newer one, which was Spectrum. They call it.
Huh.
And the Spectrums you can actually use more in like the dry hop side.
Cool.
So that was, we had a good results using both of those. And we've been messing around with Incognito and different timing. So we're having fun playing and learning with those new ingredients.
I love it. And speaking of that, the ingredients, like this series has been, from all the ones I've had, must have been, I don't know, 6 to 10 of these I think I've had over the years. These have been must have been really fun for you guys to work with. They've all, correct me if I'm wrong, they're all collabs, maybe except for the Porter. Yep. Which is cool because Matt, you alluded earlier to a bunch of collabs that you guys do, and you're really big on fostering that community and working with people. But I've really enjoyed this series because it's always something like, even if it's just like wild ass shit every single time. Like even something you're like, whoa, like no, like that is not gonna. But then you make it work. Like it's just super interesting.
And then you have to wait a year to see if it actually did work.
Oh, that's a good point. Because they're all barrel.
You get good at like
picking it.
Like there's an art to the post aging side of it.
Right.
Some things obviously come out, you're like, wow, that was unexpected, but you can always finish it.
Right.
So like sometimes we age things after barrels, like the wine skin, for instance. So you can kind of like
tweak
not
it.
necessarily change it, but like guide it in the right direction.
Okay. That makes sense.
But it's definitely a challenge to like be creative and come up with new ideas and not just kind of regurgitate the same ones all the time.
Yeah.
So that is a bit challenging.
Well,
Because
when you put like cannoli in a beer, you seem to be pushing pretty far, right?
yeah, I mean that's what people do now. I don't know.
Shucking
There's people
desserts.
doing weirder shit than what we're doing.
But it's like I feel like you've got the right level of weird, if that makes sense. As far as like, I think for your audience and for who and you guys have got a fantastic. I feel like one thing you guys do across the board that you do not get enough credit for is the gateway side of things, which isn't this, but you've got the Saint of Circumstances, really like approachable lighter beers that everybody can access year round, and maybe the more flagship brands, and you've got this crazy ass high ABV barrel stuff for the straight beer nerd. So you're introducing people to it, to craft beer. Then the thing we talked about earlier with the art and the music and how that's bringing people into beer. But then you're also very well servicing probably people like the three of us, like just beer nerds who just love the shit. And you're doing that. So I think it's really cool. And this is probably one of the times where you don't have to worry about the noobs. You're like, yeah, man, we can just balls to the wall, go crazy. Did you go on, sorry?
I was gonna say, I think that's kind of key, especially nowadays when you're a brewery like us, where we're larger. You kind of have to service all of the groups, right? Because if you focus on one group, I think you're destined down a path of eventually you're gonna run out of customers, or they're gonna move on to something else, right? So you gotta definitely try to placate everyone.
I mean, you're not going to be a larger brewery if you're going to only talk to us.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be honest, I think it's like it's funny. We have a festival. What do all the brewers want to drink? They want to drink an easy drinking lager, right?
Yeah.
We play all over the place, but and so why do we need to be so pretentious as to only make one style of beer because it's we can pound on our chest and say we're the cool kids making the coolest style of beer. No, we want to have fun, and we want to try different things. We know our drinkers want to try different things. So for us, that's part of what we're all about. So we don't need to be worry about our ego or are we the cool kid? We want to make good beer. So it's like, yeah, there's great beer that's really easy drinking. And there's great beer that is aged. It's 10% and it's aged for a year, and you don't know what you're going to get until it's coming out of the barrel. And so, it's fun to play in that whole range.
Yeah. No, well said. I had, I think it was my last bottle from this series, like maybe last month or February. I think it was the one with, Kex in Iceland, which was like the sea salt and cacao. Yep. That was probably my favorite from the series. Because it was just money. It was just fucking money. I love that one. Did either of you guys have a favorite from from the very beginning to now of the Origins of Darkness series?
Wow. I forget them all. And I made them all.
There is a million. Just looking through Untapped. There's like, there's a million of these bastards. How many are there? Like 30, 40, 50?
No, of the barrel age, I don't know. What are we, 16 maybe, Ryan?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's not so bad.
Take, maybe
4 years, maybe 5 years, so 16 to 20.
Okay.
There's a couple extras. Like last year, we had the Cascade collab that was like a wild sour. So
okay.
There's a few oddballs there, so we're probably pushing 20, maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
That Cascade collab, that was a beautiful beer.
What was that one?
That one we did a mixed culture, like a stout base, so a dark sour.
Cool.
Then we finished on Ontario peaches.
Wow.
So
that's interesting.
Like a full-on mixed culture sour, bottle conditioned. So totally different than the rest of the series, really, and that's in a bottle, obviously. But
the bottle one. Okay. Did you have a favorite?
I don't know if I don't do well picking favorites.
That's fair.
But this year there was one with peanut butter, Ryan.
Oh, the peanut butter milkshake.
Yeah, the one with
Yeah.
Larvig.
Yes, that's at the very top.
I think that was it was the one that surprised. I didn't think I would be into it, and it was really I really enjoyed that. That was, I think, my favorite of the year.
Interesting. The head on this one, I'm just looking at the pictures on Untapped. Look at that head on this one. This is like, that's crazy. Like,
That
look at that.
oh yeah, that's doing some interesting stuff.
I mean, you've got actual peanut butter in there that I imagine just seems to react. Sometimes
Yeah,
when you have these things.
Yeah. No, we use the desiccated peanuts, but
Like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's some really interesting ones in here, man. Really,
Yeah,
I see the one,
again-
chocolate and pistachio cannoli, with the one in Italy.
That was with Crack, wasn't
Crack.
it? With Claudio.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Again, on the nose a little bit, but
Nah, dude, this is what it's about.
Worked
This is what you got to be doing with this stuff, you know. Like, it's got to be interesting. It's got to be something different. And like, I'm looking at all of these ones. None of it is like, oh, that's ridiculous. It's like, oh yeah, it makes sense. Like, I had the one with cocoa,
I have a special
chilies,
place
and go on, man.
for the Crack. My first time meeting Claudio, I literally they're just outside of Venice. I flew into Venice, took a boat to see, hang out in Venice by myself. Then I took a train, then I took a bus, and then he picked me up with a car from the bus and took me to the brewery. I hung out and had a couple hours of beers with him, and then I literally went and did this whole thing back in reverse. So it was like, I have a special spot for the Crack, because it was my whole planes, trains, and automobiles all by myself traveling through Europe trying to figure out the bus schedule.
Jeez, what a nightmare. I guess Uber wasn't around. Probably not. Also, I probably would take it that far. Yeah, it's a really cool series. I mean, how did it all start, by the way?
We had a lot of barrel aged beer, and we were just trying to figure out what to do with it, and whether it was all just going to be straight up. And I don't know, same thing I said almost right at the beginning, is we're pretty good at sitting around and shooting the shit of where we want to go and playing with it. So I don't know, there was like 4 or 5 of us in the room, and we ended up with Origins of Darkness series. And like, we talked about, well, what if we did this as a collab series, and what if we focused on ingredients from their own terroir, and how do we bring that to life? And then we said, okay, that's cool. And then that's where the Origins came up with, and obviously Darkness is the style. So that's, it's pretty on the nose, the name.
That makes so much more sense now. And
Yeah.
I guess I didn't really put 2 and 2 together, that the one I had from Iceland had Icelandic sea salt and stuff in it, and this is from New Zealand. There's got all these Kiwi stuff, so it all makes much more sense now. I love that.
Yeah. I don't think we've talked about that literally, but the name is a literal. It's dark beers using ingredients from their own terroir. So that's the shtick, and it's fun,
Simple and effective. No, when did it start? I guess if you've got about the 20 odd beers, probably
4 or 5 years ago.
4 or 5, yeah. And you do what, four each year ish, 4 or 5
ish, yeah. 4 typically, unless there's an oddball.
Gotcha. And the Imperial Porter I had was also under this brand, but that I don't know if it was I don't think it was a collab anyway.
No, it's just a straight up Imperial Porter in a bourbon barrel, like kind of old fashioned.
Yeah,
like
we
you
were
said.
doing that. It was kind of, that was the base, and then everything was playing off of that direction. We've since, because initially when we first did it, it was all off the same base, and now the base can be different.
Okay.
And so it allows us to play that much further.
Gotcha.
But that's why we initially had that straight up Imperial Porter, is we were like, it starts here and then everything goes off of that.
Right. Oh, that was the first one.
Yeah. That was
That
just
makes
the
more sense.
straight beer out of the barrel. not adding all the interesting ingredients.
Mm.
I don't think we're doing the straight up Imperial Porter anymore, because we're now playing, each one of these is a little bit more unique now.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would make sense because the base isn't the same anymore, so it doesn't have the same value. Yeah, I get it. No, it's really cool. It's really fun that that you're able to do something like this as well. And I guess once again, it just continues to foster that community internationally with like fun breweries and stuff. For the one I think it gets released like in the winter, obviously beginning of the winter. Is that right?
Yeah, it's usually late October, Ryan, somewhere in there.
Yeah, October-ish is usually when we try to get it out.
Okay, so then the latest one, were they always virtual collabs, or were you sort of bringing the folks in?
No, pre-COVID, it was in person.
It was in person. Okay.
But yeah, the last couple of years has been pretty much all virtual.
Virtual, so they just ship you the ingredients from the origin type of thing from whoever you
Yeah, we would do a couple of video calls, get on the same page.
Zoom collabs.
Zoom collabs.
Yeah.
Hey, it's not uncommon.
We should have had a whole series, Zoom collabs.
There's still time. There's still time.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is there, like, tell me to shut up. Is there any spoilers for this year that you can sort of tease, even if it's not the breweries themselves, but maybe some ingredients or anything?
I don't know, Matt. How much do you want to share?
You don't have to say anything at all. I just thought I'm testing.
No, I don't really care, but
go for it.
I could spoiler a couple breweries. One we're doing one with Bellwoods. We're doing a local one.
Nice. Is that the first
It'll
local?
be the first local Canadian one.
Fantastic. That's great. That's a good look.
Yeah, and then now you're making me think. And then one American one, we're doing one with Burial. So they're obviously very known for their big Imperial stouts. So yeah, there's a couple teasers, I guess.
That'll do. That works. Okay, that's sick. Yeah, I know a bunch of people who like every year make sure they get them and post about it and super excited about the packages and stuff. So it's cool. It's cool that this is going to continue to be a thing, even when you weren't able to do it how you'd been in the past. So it's did you? I guess they were virtual last year too. Actually, now I think of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. And well, at least you can still get the stuff. Really, that's probably the most important thing. Is being that's what needs. You're still able to sort of ship those things between countries and stuff. So yeah, that's awesome, man.
And they're interesting beers because the reality is, even when you do it in person, you're aging these over a long period of time. So there's
the
things that are
work
happening at different steps.
Yeah.
So it's not like that brewer's there for every step of the process. There's it's a trust factor, and you're collaborating together on it. So
yeah.
The biggest thing you're missing is hanging with your friends and having some beers, but the creativity stays the same.
I like that. I like that a lot. Speaking of the creativity, have you or are you planning on incorporating any of the distillery products with beer, whether it's this series or otherwise?
We've put some base beer, refilling some of our rum barrels. I don't think we've really done anything with that beer quite yet, but it's not very much. It's like very tiny. But I think the goal in the future would be to have enough barrels where we could do some bigger scale things, but we're not quite at that much spirit volume quite yet. But
gotcha.
Yeah, we'll eventually get there. But
with the gin?
Well, we don't barrel age any of the gin yet.
That's probably true. They don't go in the barrel. Didn't think of that.
Yeah. I mean, some people make barrel aged gins, but none of ours are. The rum would be the first one we'd do something with.
Gotcha.
So there will be like some smaller scale release of something. I don't know when. I got to talk to Brett. I don't know where those are at right now.
That's cool. No, I love it. It's just cool, man. Oh, and the last thing we didn't touch on was the cannabis side of things.
Yeah, that's been an interesting journey. We, I don't know, Ryan, what year it was. We were like, right around when cannabis was legalizing, we were like, Okay, cannabis beverages. Let's see if we can figure that out. We put our names in and did all the paperwork to license our space to make cannabis beverages, which turned out it's impossible to have an alcohol facility and a cannabis beverage facility be the same. They need to separate church and state, which
Kind of weird,
not
but okay.
not exactly sure why, but it's not to do with making the beverages. It's just good government stuff. But we spent a crazy amount of time figuring out how to do these things, doing efficacy trials in California because it wasn't legal to do those things here at the time. Figuring out, because you're trying to take an oil-based substance and make it water soluble, so you need an emulsion. Right. So looking at emulsion suppliers from everywhere from California to Israel to BC and all over the world, and figuring out how to bring those best emulsion suppliers up into Canada. So it was a crazy journey. We started selling beverages finally in June, July last year, I think it was. And it's still a small category in the cannabis world, but we've done well. I think it's mainly because we take our idea of creating really elevated beverages and applied that. And so, Ryan led the charge on innovation, and we created a whole roster of incredible drinks. Our number one selling is a blood orange and yuzu. So they're built like really cool cocktails, and I think everyone else went for sparkling water with flavor.
Yes,
and that's fine if it's about getting it done. I want to get high as quickly as I can, but the reality is, if you want to get high as quickly as you can, smoke a joint. Like,
facts.
You're right. So if you want to enjoy the experience along the way, then make really great product. And I think we've become known for that. So it's a sister company. It's called Collective Project. But yeah, it's been a fun journey for us, a long journey, but a fun journey. And I think that category is just getting started and people are just getting comfortable with it right now. I think you go into dispensaries and people are really comfortable with their own personal weed culture. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that are kind of curious that aren't really as comfortable going into a smoked glass dispensary.
Yeah.
But those are a lot of the people who are really excited about these beverages. And instead of having a glass of wine on a Wednesday night, you can have a 5 milligram THC beverage that's like way less calories and just a way more chilling experience, or a different experience on a Friday night. But they're starting to learn it, and so I think the category is going to hit that hockey stick. And so yeah, it's been a wild ride to get to this point.
Interesting. I love kind of curious. That's a great verbiage right there.
Well, there's so many people, especially as you get a little bit older, there's a stigma around cannabis for a lot of people, and that it's okay to have alcohol around your kids, but you can't have cannabis around your kids or in a public place. But all of a sudden, you put it in a beverage, and it's now part of that social experience, and it changes the whole rules. And so it will come fairly quickly, I think, over the next year or two.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. That's basically the only way. I haven't smoked since 2009, but I've been eating and consuming since then. And I only discovered the beverages when it was legalized, whenever they brought it here. Because the OCS has different stuff than the SQDC in Quebec. So we have access to some stuff. You guys, by the way, I don't know if you know, it's significantly cheaper in Ontario. Like, I think about 30% more expensive here for the exact same products.
I think Quebec's being a little more protectionist to some of the stuff they're doing there. And beverages highest degree of difficulty, because making a beverage isn't that easy. Then you need to figure out how to add the cannabis and create the stability and the efficacy of the product and have the right onset and offset of the experience
and taste good.
It's a really high degree of difficulty. So up until like full legalization in Canada, if you went to California or Colorado, like those beverages were really bad in general. Like they didn't taste good. You didn't know how much cannabis you were getting. A lot of it was falling out and you weren't getting consistency. So it took the legalization of Canada and real beverage companies getting into the space for actually good products to be made. So it's kind of still early days, and it'll be interesting to see if and when the US legalizes. That will be a whole interesting journey as well.
Change the game. Yeah, you nailed it when you said like the one. I'm just thinking about the ones that I get because there's limited choice. So I just try as many ones as I can. And I noticed that you are exactly right. There's sparkling water with a bit of flavor. It's all, natural flavors as opposed, or artificial, whatever it is, as opposed to real products. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's not so cool. There's a couple that do like non-alcoholic beer styles that are fine. Everything's fine. I haven't had anything that's ever blown my mind. I don't mind them, and you actually nailed the way that people drink them. And so I have them. I do another podcast with my brother and a friend. It's about hip hop music and stuff. So I always drink one of those during that podcast. And my girlfriend she likes CBD. She doesn't like getting high, but she drinks the CBD ones and she'll mix them even just with gin because she likes the mix. And obviously you don't get really high from the CBD. It's like a bit more relaxing. So it's become a thing. We always have a bunch of them in the fridge now. So it has become a part of our lifestyle. And I imagine it's, like you said, we're just really at this real bottom part, and the hockey sticks are about to happen to that uptake. And there's a big crossover between beer and cannabis.
Yeah, and it's a learned experience, right? Because alcohol we've learned from often way too young of age. Like, what does 5% drink, how does that affect us? And if we stack those, we haven't learned that necessarily with cannabis beverages, and everyone's had their bad edible experience where it doesn't hit you for 2 hours and then you're waking up the next morning and still feeling fucked up. So the great part about beverages is there's a relatively consistent experience, so you learn what that's like and how much your tolerance is and what it's like if you stack it, and so then it becomes that much more approachable experience for you. So we love it, and but it's no different than when we started in beer. You get one product in, you got to wait a while to get another product in, and for us, we have so many different ideas. It's our patience isn't always there of how long it'll take to get the range of taste profiles and the range of dose profiles and everything into the stores, but we're getting there. I think we have 4 products now listed
at the OCS for people who want to get it.
At OCS, we have some going out to Alberta, BC. Just found out we have 2 products now listed in Newfoundland.
I think, but we're talking about Quebec, but Quebec has the milligram dosing. So some of our most popular product we couldn't sell there. We lose them.
Yeah, I'm here. It's the sorry. Let me just replace that. I gotta add you guys back in. The camera died. So now back to the old webcam. Okay, so because when I buy in Quebec, there's on the website, right, it'll have a, you're only allowed to buy 30 milligrams per order. So like, I'll go and put a bunch of stuff in the cart, then you get there, then everything's in red, and it'll be like X number of grams of 30. And then you got to go, okay, if I delete this one, is it still all in red? Yes. Okay, fuck. Now I got to get another one. So like, I have to put in order. So my girlfriend she found one that she really likes. So all I can get is 7 of those CBD drinks for her. Then I go and order like 6, I think I fit of mine because they're all THC drinks. So I can fit usually like 6 or 7 of those. So then I'll have to do 2 different orders, pay for the shipping twice to come to be able to get those. And they have no gummies or any other types of edibles. It's oils, sprays, and beverages. But in Ontario, I ordered not that long ago to her mum's house, because we were trying to show her mum CBD. So I was like, oh, let's get some shit for us. And they had a bunch of different drinks that we didn't have. They had gummies, and everything. Like, she gets a CBD oil that's like $22 here, and it's $14 there. And if you scale that up to some of the higher dose, that's like a 10 milligram real low CBD dose one. And as you go higher, I imagine that sort of economy of scale would continue. So it's kind of ridiculous the way that is, and like what we're actually, like how much they block you here. And you don't have, I know it's like a plague in Hamilton, like Chris Duran was telling me, like the way that it all came about in Hamilton first before anywhere else in Ontario. And now you go to Toronto and every corner there's a cannabis store that's become this whole ordeal. But you can't do that here. It's just the SQDC government stores. That's it. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, that short drive, whatever, an hour to the border at least, and then everything changes, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Ontario's always been a more regulated market than Quebec. Quebec was always much more like all the dépanneurs selling beer and everything. So it's interesting that it's flipped.
Kind of flipped, right? Yeah, and yeah, it's a little strange. So I hope you guys are able to get out here, because even that, the flavors that I've noticed, this is just a small qualitative thing, that the flavors in the CBD drinks that you can get here are so much more interesting than the THC drinks. So that there's like, I guess it's the same THC, both, and just CBD. So
I think it's the THC maximum there is lower, right? It's only 5 milligrams.
5 is
where in Ontario,
probably the highest.
Where in Ontario you can do 10.
Okay, and that's like, it makes no sense. But like, why are the fun flavors like dragon fruit and shit only CBD, but you can't get any of those in THC? I'm like, man,
probably just the producers and what they make. Like, I know talking to other producers, some of them tried to make the same product but different for Quebec, and then it was a bit of a disaster. So I think some of them gave up on it. Okay, it's just because it has different rules for the dosage rates, from what I know.
And I do think the government's learning. Like, they applied a very like cannabis 1.0 set of rules to cannabis 2.0, the beverages. So you, like in Ontario currently, you're only allowed to buy basically 5, depending on the size of the can, 5 or 6 cans at a time.
Okay, so they do limit you.
They do limit you. Now, they've recognized, they just came out with something that I think allows you to buy up to like 48. But it's like, I can buy 1,000 milligrams of THC in a oil, but I can only buy 50 milligrams across 5 beers or five drinks. Like, it's made no sense. So they have acknowledged that, and so I think the limit is supposed to increase so that you don't have that same penalized view on the beverages.
Interesting. And I mean, like, okay, but if you think about it as well, I could go and load my car out with cases of beer and no one's going to say anything. And I could literally die from that, but we could have 48 cans of THC and we won't feel good for a few days, but we won't die. It's kind of ridiculous if you actually think about it. It should be the other way around. Not that I want them to stop us the amount of beer to buy, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, it's like the legalization thing has...
I think the more markets that open up, then they'll create some form of logical, hopefully some form of common sense that surrounds it all.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I love it though. It's a great next step that makes sense for you guys, for the business and for the brand to sort of move into that from now, beer distilling and cannabis. It's just like all the best things in life, I guess,
Yeah, when we love creativity and we love trying new things, and we already talked about, we love the idea of the challenge of like not being able to export or like challenge the traditional borders that are set on us. So cannabis was just a natural extension for us.
It's very cool. I really love it. No, man, look, I'm a huge fan of everything you guys are doing. It's really cool to actually get the story finally from you both, and to hear about what you're doing and how it all came together. This is great. I hope it really painted a picture for everyone watching and listening that maybe had been drinking your stuff for pushing a decade, 10 years next year. That's crazy, and just seeing the way, watching the growth of the company and the way that you guys have sort of, keep taking it to different levels and switching it up and keeping it interesting whilst never forgetting your original customers and keeping the newer beer drinkers in mind and, tapping into cannabis drinkers and people who like craft, liquor and things like that. It's just really cool, man. I really applaud you guys for what you're doing, and you just can, and even building in the artists and the musicians. It's very cool. I really respect everything you're doing, guys. So I appreciate your time. This is great.
Thanks for having us on. This was fun.
This is dope. I forgot. I should have done it before the camera died, but I guess it's not that serious. I'm going to take a screenshot for the thumbnail for YouTube. Do you want to hold up some of the cans and bottle or whatever? So I can get 3. I'm going to need you to do the face. No, you don't have to do the face.
Matt, do the face.
Do the face for me. Show me the face.
Yeah. The serious face.
You guys are cracking me up. Fellas, where can everybody find Collective Arts online?
At our website, I think for those in Ontario, there's the direct link is in Collective Arts Ontario, but it's Collective Arts collectiveartsbrewing.com is our main site. Perfect.
I believe it's Collective Brew on Instagram.
That's our Instagram. I think that's our Twitter too. Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of collective accounts because you got the Toronto one, the projects, the distillery, and things like that. But they're all worth following because they will keep you up to date with what's going on.
We tried not to trip over each other. So there's a Collective Arts Ontario. That's everything that's happening locally, and all the local beers are only available here in our local events. And then Collective Brews, our main channel. And we have a Collective Distilling one, and then Collective Project.
Love it. So make sure you guys go find them. Do you want people to find you guys at all individually, or just stick to the brand?
My Instagram got hacked a while back, so I'm dead.
Just letting it go.
I was sending them, I'm like, what the fuck? When did you get really into crypto?
I got really into Bitcoin or whatever. Yeah.
It's usually the tell. That's the tell. Ryan's changed.
I was like, wow.
I wish I was.
Thanks for the hot tip, Ryan. I'm going to buy that crypto right now.
NFTs of all the beers. All of a sudden, people's making money. I love it. I'm just going to wrap this up. Stick around and we'll wrap this up offline. But boys, thank you once again for the time. I really appreciate it. This was really enlightening. Really great convo. Appreciate you both very much. Everybody, thank you for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit the notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us on social media everywhere at BAOS Podcast. And now we're on TikTok, goddammit. We're with the kids. Check us out. We drop these podcasts every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So, make sure you're following. Throw us what is it? I went to go like because it's YouTube. 5 stars, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Helps a ton. All right, y'all. Boys, thank you again. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Cheers.
Thanks.